And I watched The Foreigner with Jackie Chan. But, well, I know we weren't recording it, so.
Okay. Well, we're supposed to be streaming. We'll see when this hits back at us. All right, almost there. It says we are live, but it's not showing that we are live.
Well, I'm recording nonetheless.
All right, I'll wait till I see an image, and then we'll be good.
Okay.
Or actually, I'll wait about a minute, and if I don't see anything, fuck it.
Okay. I'll stop recording then.
No, you can keep recording.
Well, I just have to delete it out later. Just let me know when we're streaming. In a minute or
stream complete. Sure.
Wow.
Sure.
Well, that was a good episode, guys.
Stream resumed.
Oh, so now we're streaming?
Presumably.
I'll see my
okay, yeah, we are streaming.
All right. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here come the candles to light you to bed. Here comes the chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the great, what are we doing? The American Greed Factory podcast.
Wow. This is the Nathan Advertising Hour. And,
yeah.
Sponsored by.
What podcast were you on? This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Yeah, I don't know. I was sitting there listening to the whole thing. Yeah, I got to.
The Great American Greed Factory podcast.
Like I should break down and do that thing from Blade Runner. Just start chanting that mantra. Cells interlinked.
Interlinked. You're way off your baseline. Okay.
Yeah, I forget what that's from. That's from some book.
Was it like a poem or something? Or
it's like a book written like a poem.
Oh, okay.
That whole
so
Rochambeau. Yeah. But yeah, I was way off there. I don't know what happened. But I hope everyone can forgive me for my lack of professionalism. It's like one of those things when you think it's like, okay, I know I got to do this. It's time to do it. Where am I doing? Why am I here?
Oh shit, my RAM just totally went off, and all my recent memories and thoughts are gone.
Something just happened, and I don't know what it is.
Purge the RAM.
But here we are, ready for excellence again. Excellence in podcasting. Our show is growing, and
we have the awards to not prove it. We want.
I love those podcasts that are full-time job podcasts. Those are really good. But I also like the ones where the guys just get together and fuck around.
Yeah,
those are fun too. It's you expect different things at different.
Those
times.
are usually the ones I continue to listen to.
Yeah, I find myself like when the guys are coming in with, because I remember I used to do all that shit. Like I had music and we had things, and I tried to incorporate all these elements. I was like, what am I doing? This is just, nobody cares. Oh, time to talk about news. Nobody wants that. But there's always
he said a thing and a sound happened.
We could steal shit from Opie and Anthony all day. They're not around
Yeah,
anymore.
they're not around. Who cares?
Yeah.
Their lawyers care.
Whatever holding company owns the rights to the old episodes of Opie and Anthony.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, I do find I like some of the. I like the ones where it's just three guys fucking around and it's kind of random, but there's a point and then one guy has insane insight, and the other guy's just telling fart jokes. And it's like you can almost sometimes you can feel the anger just sizzle through the headphones. Like, oh, somebody's not having fun. Somebody's having a lot of fun. But yeah, it's those. That's a weird evolution. I think my longest podcast to this day though is still "Oh Yeah, Dude."
Yeah.
Because I think I started listening to that. They were like 30 episodes in before someone told me about it. It was my first like podcast I listened to, and I've been listening to that like pretty much every week since when did that start? 2006.
Yeah.
It was way back there.
Yeah.
Back in the old times, back when the earth was young. We were still hope in the land. But
my first podcast was all the One Up podcasts. So that was like around 2007, something like that.
Okay.
So it was like my first podcast, I think it was called Knots, which they went back and played old games and talked about them.
Oh, okay.
And then I got into like all the One Up Yours and GFW radio and stuff like that. And that was all really good. And now it's all gone. All of those guys have been scattered to the wind.
I still like the guys that were like the two cracking jokes people that had regular jobs. Like they had a bunch of podcasts like that I like to listen to just for kind of what you would say their randomness, like their, attempt to be good and sometimes actually being good, surprisingly. And then they just disappear. And they were never hugely popular, but there was kind of a core of people. And then you do internet research and it's like, oh yeah, the one dude got married. The other guy hated his wife. So they quit doing the podcast like suddenly, like just like, fuck you, I'm done. It's like, oh wow, that's sad because they kind of had a thing going.
Was that the Vomitus Prime guys?
That was one of them. And what was the other one? The nice guys or I can't remember. We're now getting into podcasts where we can talk about like, oh, we're at decade plus.
Yeah.
What happened to those guys? Where are they?
Well, essentially, like, all the one-up guys, like they've all gone on to do, because they're all video game journalists, but had kind of this multimedia approach to it at the time that was unique at the time. Now it's just what everybody does.
Yeah. Sorry.
And so like 3 of the guys are like video game directors. Luke Smith, he's the director on Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Brian Intihar, he's the director on the new Spider-Man game that Insomniac is making. And he did a video game sports podcast.
Well, they talk about video game and sports or sports video games.
Yeah, it's called the Sports Anomaly.
That's a good name.
And then I can't remember there's one guy who works over at Bungie. He's like a director over at Bungie now.
Oh.
And then Sean Elliott, who's probably like the smartest person and the most interesting person at that whole One Up place. He's just a level designer for he worked on BioShock Infinite. He was a level designer there, and then recently he worked on the new Prey game. He's a level designer for that.
Okay.
And like Jeff Green, he's like does consulting work. He does like mock reviews for like big corporations. Like that's what he does.
Oh. So he's like kind of like this is what people will say about this.
Yeah, well he's like in his 50s. He's like the same age as Obama, so.
Oh, okay.
And then, because most video game journalists don't last that long, but now we're in a weird world where, like, we have aging gamers and aging game journalists, which never happened before, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's...
Well, like, half the Giant Bomb guys are turning 40, or are already 40.
Yeah, but I'd say they're more out-of-place reporters or people I don't like listening to on Giant Bomb or all the newer ones. But that might just be my ageism where I actually care for Jeff and Vinny and all the other guys that are like older. And
Abby's great. Ben,
I don't like Abby very much. I don't think she offers any insight whatsoever. Like
well, I mean, she's more like her background is that she's more of an improv comic, or not improv comic. She does improv comedy. Okay. Like that's kind of her background. So that's kind of like she specializes, and she also went to school for video production and stuff like that. I always think she has really good jokes.
Well, so I was just watching some of the between Player Battlegrounds Unknown and like their like top like best game and worst game lists and stuff like that. And like I always hated because she would just like echo what everybody else was saying or chime in really late with everything and it just like disrupt the flow of the video and the commentary.
I mean,
so I just didn't like. I mean, not saying there's other things she's not better at, but those were not her best videos.
well, I was also like when she was working with everybody and they weren't. She's like. She usually works with all the East Coast people, so that was kind of everybody getting together for the first time. Ben's the only one like I kind of been lackluster on, although he has come up with one of my favorite lines, just weird fucking comedy lines, like maybe ever. Like they're talking about like good food, and like he said a sentence that was like seemed like it shouldn't work, but it makes sense when you think about it. He said, I think bread and butter is the bread and butter of bread and butter.
Well, he must have been high. Like,
one of my favorite jokes that Abby had is that they got somebody wrote in about to the podcast about eating spiders in your sleep, and then like somebody wrote in the next day how that's just a fallacy. That's just something to show how people believe anything. And then she goes like, well, how are you going to believe somebody with all those spiders in your stomach?
Like Grayson still listens to Rooster Teeth.
Oh yeah, I guess they're
still around.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're still huge, even though
Halo's not
I don't
huge.
listen to their. I mean, I don't watch their Machinima stuff, but it's still big because I always associate them with Halo, the Halo Red versus Blue stuff, but they have like tons of other shit.
Well, I'd hope so, because Halo is not exactly... I mean, it's not a bad property, but it's not, like, a good property right now.
And also, like, because it's them, like, the top, for the Extra Life stuff, it's them. They're, like, they make about 10 times as much as Giant Bomb, and then Giant Bomb's number 2. That's
What's the temperature there?
What's that?
What's the temperature there?
I like 0.
Yeah.
Oh, is that...
Alexa, what's the temperature outside?
Currently, in Cedar Rapids, it's 2 degrees with clear skies.
There you go.
Tonight, you can expect cold temperatures with a low of -6 degrees.
That's nice. Thanks, Wiretap. Government, what am I doing wrong right now? Yeah, here it's like 12, but of course we got the Michigan classic 30-mile-an-hour headwind.
That
Oh,
good
yeah.
old late Michigan headwind.
Yeah, there's always wind blowing from somewhere here.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a wind, but it's not too bad. So
No.
I mean, it's mostly just the ice on the ground that's making things colder right now, I think.
I mean, I work in a freezer, so it's kind of weird. I was like, oh, it feels really cold outside. When technically, when I'm working in my freezer, it's colder in the freezer, but because it's not just blowing that shit on you, it's
Yeah, it's artificially cold in here. Well, that's good. Oh yeah,
old podcast.
old podcast.
What was your first podcast? And do you listen to them really?
First podcast I ever listened to was yours. But at the same time,
It's not a good introduction.
well, back then you guys had 2 different podcasts going because American Greed Factor was Comlin's, and then what was your
Weirdos and
podcast
Warriors.
Weirdos and Warriors that you did, and you guys collaborated on both, and your guests on both of yours. And I apologize, I never listened to Weirdos and Warriors, but the other podcast I listened to after that, the professional podcast I listened to was Gilbert Godfrey's podcast. Which I probably listened to about 6 or 7 straight episodes, and I kind of meant to listen to more, and I never did.
When did that start? Because that's like on that's on the Earwolf Network, isn't it?
I think so, but I haven't listened to it for like 3 or 4 years now,
okay.
so I didn't pick it up when it was just starting or anything. It was probably in its 2nd or 3rd season-ish. But I mean, it was entertaining. It was really nice. Like, probably my favorite episode is him talking to, like, Eartha Kitt and like some of the other Catwomen and stuff like that. Just asking questions about that, because he talks to more or less like really obscure, like older celebrities. Like people might not really know who they are, or he might have weird guests on. Nobody really knows who they are, but he still makes it really interesting. It's not just like, oh, you better know this, or oh, this will be a podcast. It's an hour and a half long. No one gives two shits about. But he actually has good comedy and he has good insight and things to talk about. So
I suddenly have the need for a podcast with Gilbert Godfrey and Norm Macdonald being crotchety together.
that actually, I think I would listen to that. That'd be cool. Does Norm Macdonald still have a podcast or no?
I don't. Does he have a podcast? I don't know.
I thought he did at one point.
I don't know. I didn't. Once he started collaborating with Dennis Miller and doing different things, and then Adam Carolla and Dennis Miller were doing things, I was like, oh, okay, I had just got to walk out of this room. Just too much horse shit in one place. And it's horse shit from people I used to like. It's like, oh, God, okay. Yeah, I know the Grim Reaper claws closer every day, but Jesus Christ. How you want to be remembered?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Norm Macdonald has his own thing, but it'd be cool if he did, because he's had good couple outings with being on his own comedy special on Netflix, and then also being on one of their Netflix shows that lasted for a season as kind of a weird security character.
The Boss Girl.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he does. But now he's just doing voice work. He's like the duck on Mike Tyson's Mystery.
Yeah.
It's not still going because I haven't seen any episodes.
I don't know.
I hope so.
I haven't really been current with Adult Swim in a while, except when Rick and Morty's on. And then he's also the Blob in the Orville.
Oh, okay. I guess I still haven't seen that show, so I didn't know he was in that. But I know voice acting is pretty easy gig to secure nowadays. It seems like there's a lot of different voice acting work for a lot of different shows out there. So
it's kind of weird. There's a lot of like that used to be like a whole industry unto itself of voice actors who that's what they do and nobody butted in. But now you have all these celebrity voice actors who like aren't getting as much acting work as they used to. They're starting to button all like they're reading books, they're doing voiceover work, and like all this. It's like there must be a lot of fucking pissed people out there.
Well, the thing about doing voice work is you can start looking like me. Nobody cares what you look like when you're behind a microphone.
Yeah.
True, but then you start replacing just like was it Keith or Sutherland or somebody did the last Metal Gear Solid game and it wasn't the guy it usually did, and everybody was kind of pissed because it wasn't him.
I can't. The last Metal Gear Solid game, they switched the voice of Snake from David Hayter to Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh,
not that Kiefer Sutherland has a bad voice; it's just not the same as the same guy has been anchoring the franchise for like the whole fucking time having a voice.
But yeah, it's because Hideo Kojima just ended up hanging out with Kiefer Sutherland or something like that, and he just thought he was a cool guy, and he's like, yeah, let's switch the voiceover. Because I'm not sure. Because David Hayter did it for the whole time, but I'm not sure how much reverence he has for the English actor, for the English version of the game when it's done first in Japanese.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the guy who did the Japanese voice, if he was, because I want to say he was still the guy for the Japanese voiceover of the game. Like they didn't change that one to somebody else.
No, they taught Keith Sutherland Japanese, so he could Ohayou gozaimasu.
Well, that's the weird thing is he actually doesn't talk a whole lot in that game. Like he has like very few lines.
Yeah, he does go or just kind of mumbles occasionally a lot. But no, didn't plus the Saints Row had somebody come on in one of the last games. It was like a a really well known voice actor replace their main character or whatever. And there's been a lot of switch ups with. Because it doesn't, or at least it was a voice option you could change
literally,
because you could customize your character in the third or fourth Saints Row, and then one of them was literally you could be this famous voice actor instead.
Was it just Nolan North?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a long time since I played that game, so I couldn't remember the guy's name, but
I want to say it was Nolan North. Just the
Isn't
two
that
big.
the game where every installment gets more and more bizarre?
Yeah, well,
So the installments are over now. Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be another Saints Row game, which is kind of unfortunate.
well, there'll either be tons more, or that studio's gonna close.
Well, their last game was such a pile of shit. I
Yeah.
thought it would probably close, but
Well, I don't know, but we'll see.
Which studio is that?
Is it what is it?
Silver, I thought it was.
Volition.
Oh, I thought it was Deep Silver that did it.
No, they're publishers on it.
Oh.
Because when THQ had to sell off all their stuff,
Oh.
they went over to Deep Silver or D3 or who is it?
It's kind of sad though, because I've kind of gotten into I mean, the last couple GTA games have been good, but I still like Saints Row a lot better
Yeah.
because the mission structure and just the sense of humor and not taking itself seriously started off there more than did GTA. GTA just adopted it. And I didn't really like the last outing of GTA that much.
I mean, I liked it, but it was just kind of.
No,
my
I
son plays the shit out of that.
Well, yeah, it's kind of I haven't played any of all the add-on stuff, but yeah, it's its own new thing now. Because it's still like on the top 10 selling list, like even though it's been out for like fucking 5 years. So it's just.
Well, he does stuff with this. Whenever his friends are on, it's always GTA 5, and they're he's like, "Dad, come here and look at this," and it's like a plane with a tank. It's like, what are you guys doing? And someone's dressed as a woman. It's like, okay, this is weird, but it's a guy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're doing all kinds of weird stuff. I don't know. I don't understand that world anymore.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's like because it has their fake money in it is like cost real money. They've made tons of money. Like they show like the output of Rockstar like since they came out with is it GTA 5 or 6? It's 5, right? Yeah.
It's 5, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like they put out like it's like 5 to 3, and then it's like one game for the past 4 years.
Yeah, they're gonna time to start coasting on residuals. It's like, fuck this work. I'm getting old. My brain doesn't work so well for this program and shit. Let's just ride this one out.
Well, luckily this year they're coming out with a new Red Dead game, so hopefully that's good.
Yeah.
Especially if they make it anything open world and heist like GTA, they can coast on another 5 or 6
Yeah.
years. 5 or 6 years of that again, then come out with another GTA game or whatever. I mean, it'd be nice. Didn't they make oh damn it, who made Manhunt, the first one?
Yeah, they did Rockstar.
The second one wasn't made by Rockstar, was it?
It was produced by it. I'm not sure who developed it.
Not that we
That was
necessarily.
the Wii game. The Manhunt 2 was like the special Wii game where you can garrote them with your motion controls.
Yeah, didn't they call that a murder sim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it'd be nice to see Rockstar make another. I mean, I can't even remember another title for them besides GTA and then Manhunt.
GTA, they own the Max Payne games.
No, they do.
Yeah. Because they put out that Max Payne 3 game, which was pretty good. And then, yeah, you got Manhunt, you have Red Dead stuff. Shit, I just, like, had all their titles in my mind, and I completely forgot them. They had that table tennis.
Oh, jeez.
Bully. I know they've always wanted to go back to Bully. They put out, like, 7 different special editions for that.
Well, they might finally have time and money to go back to Bully.
Well, no, that's the thing. Is like they have enough money that they don't need to go back to it.
Well, that's the thing. You think though, with the extra money and time or whatever, they could do whatever they wanted. So
well, I mean, you
come
just
with
look at
new IP entirely.
all you have to do is look at Valve. They have all the money and all the time, all the talent, and what do they put out? Nothing.
Steam.
That's true. They haven't put out anything as far as a new Team Fortress or friggin'
I think
Half-Life
Dota 2
or-
was the last game they put out.
Need to at least do another Half-Life game or something. Jesus.
It's either Dota 2 or Portal 2 was the last game they put out.
Probably Dota 2 is probably more Portal 2 probably.
Portal 2 was a good game.
Yeah.
I love that game.
Yeah, I saw you were playing like a new. There's like a Portal 2 something or.
Oh, it was a bridge constructor Portal. So it's like one of those bridge construction games, but then they throw in the the wrench of having portal devices. So you have to like build a bridge to a portal, and then it like comes out another way, and you gotta like, and then like you have the guys riding around on forklifts, and so sometimes you have to design it where they have the turrets around there, and you have to like loop them around so they can knock over the turrets without being in front of their field cone, their vision cone, so because they'll get shot to death, and it's pretty fun. I guess the latest thing they put out is they did all the what do they call that? They just call it the room for the Vive shit. That's kind of the last thing they put out. That was pretty fun.
But even then, that's not really that huge of a...
That's more a bunch of demos, but...
Yeah, it's not really an actual game. I mean, it is a game, but it's not a AAA.
It's not a Half-Life. It's not a narrative-driven first-person shooter.
When are the next consoles coming out?
I don't know. They some people are thinking they're gonna the consoles we have now are just gonna be the consoles we have forever, but they're just gonna be iterated on like a cell phone.
Oh, okay.
Which I mean, I would be fine with because that means I don't have to buy new editions of older games that kind of whatever. So I mean, I don't know.
Consoles used to come out like every 4 years, but then the last console cycle with 360, like that was 10 years.
Yeah.
That. So that's kind of a unique thing.
Plus, I mean, as far as resolution, I mean, not that they don't keep getting marginally better, but as far as like going from the 360 to the Xbox One, I don't feel like there's that huge graphical jump right now where you need another system.
Well, I mean, like the biggest jump there would be now is if they started making everything in 4K, but they're not. Because you can get games that have 4K assets, but then you have to like download those assets, and it just and you have to have a 4K TV, and it has to, not every 4K TV has like HDR built into it, and that's another thing that makes everything look all nice is the HDR. But yeah, I don't know what necessarily the leap would be that would necessitate another console. Right now, they're all getting held back by the RAM that's built into it, I think. Because like a lot of games, it's just like, oh, these systems don't have enough RAM. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll find a way to wrangle more money from our cold dead hands. But the same.
Well, I saw a pretty interesting thing about... I saw a documentary about the making of Horizon Zero Dawn, and they had to put it pretty interesting. It illustrated how they draw everything on screen at once, and like this is common knowledge, but like where your character is looking, if you're not looking at something, the computer's not wasting any memory drawing stuff. So it's not drawing anything behind you or stuff like that. Like that's just it's like the computer knows it's there, but it's not developing. It's not using any power to render it. And then they showed how like if there's an object in the foreground that's blocking something in the distance, it's not going to render the thing behind that object.
Yeah.
So they save even more. It's like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But it was cool how they showed like a little vision cone, and it's like here's what everything it's actually drawing is only the stuff you can see.
Huh. That is pretty cool.
Anyways, what were we talking about?
Well, I was about to talk about my movie discovery I made when I was sitting here on my computer. I watched the 2007 film Zodiac, which have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah.
Okay. Nope. Yeah, I remember the first time I watched it. It was like right after it came out, and I didn't like it a lot. I was like not really impressed with it. Good at performances, but I didn't like the movie. But I didn't really know much about the Zodiac killer either. And then I watched something. Me and Stacy watched something. It was like 3 or 4 hours of episodes about what that was and how weird it was, and and then I watched this movie again. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I didn't like it before, because I didn't really know much about it, because it seemed really disjointed. Because it would take 1 year, 2 year, 7 year leaps. It's like, well, what's going on here? And But then I watched it this time and I was like, yep, yeah, because he stopped killing because he was probably in prison, and that's why all this stuff died down, and that so captured the public's imagination for the whole, because it was just horrible, because you'd be out having a picnic and some dude showing up in a hood, stabbing you to death or shooting you in the face, and like it was really horrifying crimes, and it was in the late 60s through the 70s that it went on. And there was like weird codes and stuff that this guy made up, and but people were figuring it out. Some people were code breaking enthusiasts, I guess. And the Jake Gyllenhaal character was interesting. It's like the cartoonist who gets swept away into this world of darkness. But yeah, it was a good movie. It seemed to end kind of abruptly.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what happened with the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, you never find out, so there's no conclusion there.
Nope.
It's just Ted Cruz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's not old enough. That's exactly who it was.
Nah, he went to jail in the 60s, right?
How old is Ted Cruz? I thought he wasn't more than 50-something.
He's probably like 50s.
Yeah,
I don't know. Well, I know his dad killed JFK, according to our president. So. Or
his
helped.
grandfather killed Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows. Bro, it's. I just thought mathematically, like, unless he was like 2 and killed a bunch of people, like, there's no way Ted Cruz is.
He took the mantle.
It's like, yes, he seems kind of soulless, but at the same time, doesn't mean anything.
He's like the second Spider-Man. I can't remember his name.
Let's see. They had the guy, the British guy, or the British American guy. Was it Andrew Garfield? Was he the second Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in the comic books. I can't remember his name. He's
I don't know.
The black kid. He
Oh.
has W's as parts of his name. I can't remember.
I wouldn't know.
Something Miles.
Yeah, that's it. Miles something.
Miles Morales.
Yeah, that's it.
I call him Eminem just because, seems cool. I don't know.
Well, anyway, I was working on while I was watching that movie, I was sitting in front of my computer. I was working on a new technique. It's basically generating burned metal for models, and I don't know if you can see that clearly at all.
Okay.
Oh,
But yeah, you
yep.
see how it has that transition to it. And yeah, I was looking up and researching that for hours, and I was sitting here trying to do it, and I was watching this movie, and I just totally forgot about I got drawn into the movie. I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool movie. So I was playing around with my that technique, which is actually pretty cool. It's amazing what you can do with paint. I got some new paint too. I got some of the Albelung. This, I don't know. You've probably seen this, Andrew. It's an oil paint, and it's called Starship Filth. Is the color, and you put that on, after you seal it, and it's an interesting kind of gray, dark gray color, but it really does make for spaceships and stuff. It's really appropriate. It's just interesting that it's just this German oil paint in a tube, like old school oil paints, but the color is called Starship Filth. So I've heard a lot about it in the last couple months.
All I know is your hobby shop must be a lot bigger and more interesting for paint selection than mine, because I only have like 3 brands to choose from.
Oh yeah, that hobby shop I have is huge. Or it's not big, but it's got everything.
Oh, okay. Because I would say I either have to go to the one that's in the mall across town, or go to the actual like art supply store for that type of paint. I think for what you have, since it's oil based.
Yeah, I was talking to the guy. We were, John's his name. We were down there talking, and I was telling him about some of the stuff we've talked about on here, and he said, "Yeah, the Games Workshop stuff is starting. It was a very small section in his store, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger." And he said that's it's starting to outpace. He said like military aircraft, that's really fading fast, but all the because he said like the Gundam and Games Workshop is like that's becoming the bulk of his business. So it was he's and they're getting into a lot of new stuff too. So like I said, oil paints just built for models. That used to be something like guys would go like find these oil paints and blend this ochre and this umber and you get this color, and now they're just making those colors because you know how many people are painting oil on canvas now versus building models. But that was I thought that was funny that I asked him, I said, do you have that? Oh yeah. How do you want it? We have it in several different formats. So I'll just take the old school tube.
Yeah, a lot of guys seem to like using damn, brain farting out of the word right now, the palette for spreading color and mixing and stuff like that, or even a wet palette. Do you use a wet palette or palette?
Yes, it's a homemade one, but yeah, I have one.
Oh, so it's like the wax paper on top of a
Yeah.
palette method.
Yep, that's what I do. It works good if you're doing a lot of hand painting. It makes it look, especially with a lot of flat paints, you get a lot of definition to what you're doing. I have it's back there. I don't get it, but yeah, there's.
Because I literally bought like an actual palette from an art supply store, and then it wasn't a wet palette, unfortunately. But I tried using it for a little while, but I found the paints dried out way too fast for my liking, and I couldn't really use it that well without it glopping up. So I just stuck to using it straight from the pot and kind of spreading on my fingernail or something. That's pretty much about. I mean, you see, a lot of guys do that. And a lot of weird people also. I guess I shouldn't say that for everything, because I don't know if you have that habit, but they dip it in water to clean it off, and they lick it to reform the tip and put it in their mouth, and they put it back in the paint.
No, I have a wet wash or a wet towel that I do that with. I wear gloves a lot when I paint now, so I don't get my finger oils on anything, because some of the stuff's like really small. And you don't want to put a big fingerprint on it by mistake. So yeah, no, I don't. I try not to lick like heavy metals, because I work with so many different. My mediums now are spreading out, because it was just Vallejo acrylic for a long time, but now I'm moving into other stuff. So
it's nice to find paint ranges and color schemes you like, because it works out a lot better if you can find stuff that works smoothly and doesn't, I don't know, clog up and doesn't, leaves a lot of detail on the miniature or the model. Sorry.
This is still for the Machine and Krieger one, right?
not specifically.
Okay.
But I use a lot of Vallejo for Machine and Krieger, and well, now this oil, I have like 5 tubes of different oil-based paints that I use for weathering type effects. And I use there's some Games Workshops makes a cool series of reds and yellows. I have like several different bottles, and they make some really interesting, some really good looking red, some real standout reds and yellows that I like. So yeah, I have a little bit of everything now. Now I've got like, I don't know, I can fill an entire, I have a bin like with, it's you can rotate it around, and it's, when I first got it, I was like, I'll never fill this up. 6 months later, it's like, I need another bin. Because you have airbrush paints, and then I have just paints. I don't ever really try to thin stuff and shoot it through the airbrush. I have before, but not successfully.
Now, which drawer is the edible body paint for if you get hungry and you don't want to leave the workstation? Sorry, bad joke.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I myself prefer banana because, you know, I feel like more in a tropical mood, try to keep it warm, so I'm in a cold basement. Yeah.
No.
No, okay.
I prefer licorice because fuck me, right?
Oh. But yeah, that's adventures in model making this week. So I perfected I'm working with a new technique now. I like the burnt metal look. It's kind of cool. It's appropriate for a lot of things, though. Can't put it everywhere. It's just like, I found this new thing I like. Now everything's hot metal.
I think it would look cool, like on, like if there's like circuitry components that are like burnt out. That'd be a cool look for like that.
Oh, do that. I'm gonna have to find some new stuff to work on. Find that stuff because the Machine and Krieger went bankrupt. So We don't
What?
know who's
If
import
I
the
got your address,
Hasbro
I can
models.
send you some Electro Priest models. Those are kind of wonky, weird guys. You got just guys with like big generators and cables strapped to their back and an electrical staff they use for melee, and they wear skirts and have weird tattoos all over their chests and shit. You want to work on that?
I might work on that someday. I'm still in my Machine and Krieger phase right now, so I wish that the guy I deal with, he says those are really overpriced, and he hopes that they get a better deal on those because he can only get like I don't know, because a lot of Machine and Krieger is like secondary market, and I just look at him and I'm like, that's a neat model, but I'll never pay $190 for it. But yeah, I hope the price comes down on that because it's getting more popular here. There are people that like come in and ask besides me. I don't know why I stuck to that. I just saw that once. I was like, that is really cool. And like 3 years later, it's like, well, still working on that one. Like the guys in Europe, though, they got like 15. It's like, I made my moon camel. I bought 3 different ones and made them 3 different ways. It's like $500, man. It's crazy. Guess if that's what you want, though.
Yeah, but you see guys with... Did you check out that YouTube channel I sent you
Yes.
last week?
Yes.
Find anything useful on there?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I always like watching the technique. Some of those guys have much better fine motor skills than I ever will, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know the one younger guy he gets with the long hair to paint, like he's really good at what he does as far as showing technique and wet blending and stuff like that. He has some really good information and stuff, but the older guy that actually runs the channel, I just like listening to him talk because he has a lot of good points he likes to make and, you know, just interests and hobbies and different things he can turn you on to as far as like games or models he may not have thought about or heard about. So
yeah, I've watched like 6 different shows that they have on there, mostly technique stuff.
yeah,
Like to figure out where they're at and where I'll
'cause
never be, but it's like, that's cool. That is amazing.
you say you'll never be, but you've already done something I haven't done yet, which is the burnt metal technique. So
Yeah. Well, I thank my Danish guy for that one. He gave the clearest explanation of that. Because he makes it really simple.
Because there is a lot of guys you'll find on YouTube where they're like, oh yeah, you know, this is my, you know, army, or this is my model, whatever I painted, and then it looks like a 5-year-old painted it. They're like, I'm really proud of it, and I'm like, it's like, yeah, I know they should be proud of it because yeah, they painted it, but at the same time, it's like, that looks like shit. You have a painting channel. It's like, what's the advice? Put any paint you want on it, just throw it on there, and then call it good. It's like, no. It's like, I know a guy that I play games with that I didn't know until last week he was colorblind that paints better than those people do. So the bar is not that low.
He only paints in purple and gray. It's weird, but it works.
Well, to him, because I asked him what spectrum he was colorblind in, he was like, well, if I look at grass and it's green, to me it looks orange. And then, like, certain colors, like blue, don't really register and stuff like that. And I was like, well, that makes sense. It's kind of blue and green and yellow hang out in the same spectrum. But to him, like, he can't tell what the color is on the paint pot until he looks at it and it says red or green or whatever. Because the store owner asked him, is like, well, how the hell do you know what color you're picking when you're... He's like, well, it says yellow on the gun. It's like on the paint pot, so I guess that's yellow. He's like, fair point. And so... he always comes in and, like, there'll be 5, like, giant bugs and they're all one different yellow, then the next 5 will be a different shade of yellow, and I always just figured that he ran out of paint, but I guess he just couldn't tell what paint he was buying, so it's kind of interesting seeing how he works, because he has, like, different hierarchy schemes for all his army and shit.
You should get like $1,000 and get those colorblind glasses.
Yeah, he works at Applebee's. I don't know. He's coming up with $1,000 for colorblind glasses.
I actually don't know how much those things cost, but they are outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, they have limited use case, so.
Unless insurance would partially cover it or something. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, I don't think colorblind is considered really a disability in most places.
I thought it was more or less with if you're like red-green colorblind, like unless somebody teaches you what a stoplight means. Otherwise, it looks black and white.
It's usually in the position where it
No, I know. I'm just saying is like, but if you're a first-time driver, that's kind of, or I
I
don't
don't know, our dad's colorblind and dyslexic, so.
Cut
Now
the
drive.
red wire. Which one? Like,
There's if you want to like get good critique, Reddit. There's actually just a Machine and Krieger forum. There's also a model forum, and there's one guy who does. There's a couple guys that do critiques, but there's this one guy. It's like only if you ask him, he's like, okay, what did I get wrong on this? And like he'll have a list of 20 things. It's like, yeah, decals are meant to represent something that was painted on, and some of yours are torn to simulate damage. Paint doesn't get torn; it gets rubbed down. So don't tear them. Says your chipping's random. There's no reason for something to be worn when it's not near a joint or in a foot. Like he'll just go down the whole list, but then in the end, he'll be like, "Yeah, it was a good model, though." But you have to ask him. Like he's not just going to do that.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Doesn't make any fucking sense, but.
Because you'll see it and you're like, "Wow, that's just a good job." And then this guy will critique it, and it's like, "Yeah, what he's saying makes sense." But he's not using words like he's not calling you a faggot or a loser. Just like, well, you know, things wouldn't be chipped there randomly for no reason. The pilot's color scheme doesn't make any sense. No one wears a yellow vest with like leather epaulets on it. That doesn't happen. It looks cool, but it doesn't really happen. So
I know, and that's the kind. I appreciate where he comes from because obviously that shows a lot of like thought and technique that he's mastered and thought about. But at the same time, like I don't want to have my hobby ruined by like one paint review where it's like you didn't chip that appropriately and the wearing's wrong on that side, and this color makes no sense. And it's like that's not the point. The point was that I made it look good. And it's like,
well, like I said, this
You
why
want it to look good or you want to feel good?
this guy's an ask only guy. Ask for his criticism, he'll give it, but otherwise he'll just say positive things.
no, and that's good. At least he doesn't just do that out of the blue
No.
for no reason because that would make him an asshole. But since people ask
absolutely.
for it, it makes them, you know, not an asshole. So I don't,
It's genuine criticism. It's not like an internet critic where you're just like, oh, we're just going to rip into this movie because it's only fun when we hate things.
Yeah. I'm dead inside. You will be too by the time. No, there is that. The guy was telling me too about like taking models to shows, and he was telling me about like the rivet counters because he had an amazing model in the case down at the shop of a Spitfire, and he was saying, yeah, that's a $25 model, but it looks really good because it was all weathered and detailed. But he goes, you know, they'll tell you the color's wrong. There's guys that'll tell you that service pod actually to scale should be 6 inches further back and to the right. And if you buy like what was the model? Was it the Bandai or the Tamai? Like there's another version of that Spitfire. It's the same exact size, but it's like $200. Because that one will be like right in every aspect almost. But you can make them both look the same, just as good. But there'll be that one guy at the shows be like, oh, that's not scaled right, or that's not the right color green. And he said, yeah, there's people like that love to do that. I guess with model trains, that's really bad.
Oh, yeah.
It's like cause
kind of the point, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's like if one thing's wrong, you can have this beautiful diorama, and it's like, oh, that train never did that, or it's like, oh, wow.
yeah, I come more from
That's a level of commitment that I don't have, I guess.
Well, I don't think it's commitment. I think it's just you more willing to appreciate the work and the patience and the artistic ability it took to at least make that look good and put it in a diorama or on display. It's not the nitpicking of if that model wasn't right to begin with, or if the weathering or the coloring or the shadowing wasn't appropriate for the lighting source or whatever. It's like, as long as to me it looks good and looks like somebody actually cared enough to take their time and do a good job, then I'll like looking at that model and tell them that it looks good because it does. I don't think it needs to go any further than that. I don't need to be like, that looks good, but that rivet shouldn't be there. And also, like, I don't feel the need to be that much of an asshole to anybody for no appropriate reason.
Well, the stuff, most of the stuff I make is fantasy stuff. Like no one can really say, well, that's not right. It's like kind of because it doesn't exist. So it can really be. I could literally put like dildos all over the outside. Like that could be real.
Yeah, so some of these hobbies are, they attract people that are kind of on the autistic spectrum, and that's the kind of stuff they look for, is the detail.
Yeah.
No, I mean, unfortunately, my hobbies also technically, yes, it is sci-fi and fantasy and fiction and all that shit, but it goes back enough years that people nitpick shit because, like, oh, that shouldn't have that weapon, or that shouldn't have that insignia or helmet or whatever, because...
Well, you got whole, like, books of lore and shit like that,
I know,
too.
That's kind of what dooms you. It's like, I saw people at the shop that, like, kit bash and put really cool stuff together, and then somebody was like, oh, yeah, that's not supposed to go on there. That weapon doesn't belong anywhere near that army. It's like, who fucking cares? it's like, is it hurting you? No, so it looks cool. So
do people die if we get this wrong? Maybe, I don't know.
Because it's just like somebody made this giant fucking shotgun on this priest or whatever, so it made it look like a fucking yard-long goddamn boomstick. And then it's just like, oh, that looks really cool. They're like, no, he would never have a shotgun. Who fucking cares? It's a shotgun.
Wouldn't? I mean, the thing that doesn't exist would never...
like,
I started taking, because I had the Chaos Marines, and in these sets you have like a bunch of weapons that just get left over, because if you're not going to, like, they're going to put like 7 weapons on every guy.
Yeah.
So you get to choose your loadout. But I started taking the chainsaws and attaching them to the guns. It's like, yeah, it's like Gears of War.
No, it is, and that's cool. They've actually started doing that with some of the new Space Marine kits, where they've literally put like chainsaw bayonets on the fucking end of them, or they've combined weapons now because there's combi weapons. So there's like basically like a plasma gun and a bolter strapped together, or a flamer and a bolter strapped together and shit.
They still have the Melta guns. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, they still have Melta guns too. And
that always sounded like a cool fictional weapon.
Yeah, there's like autocannons, Gatling cannons, Melta guns, plasma cannons, battle cannons.
What's the thing with the Melta gun?
It's just basically like a giant like fucking heat ray.
Oh, okay.
That like goes out of like a handheld weapon that'll melt through a whole tank or whatever. This is basically a handheld infantry anti-tank weapon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like the heat of the sun. Actually, it's so hot. What did I? Because I remember I have the Warhammer 40,000, like the original source book that came out in the early 90s, late 80s. There was a time when Warhammer was a role-playing game. It was the medieval one. I don't know if the 40,000 ever made it to role-playing game, but yeah, I have that one, and it talks about all those guns and weapons. And yeah, Melta guns essentially are so hot, they don't just burn stuff, they kind of actually break it down at an atomic level because it's just an intense blast of heat. Are those the ones with the huge long recharge time, though?
I don't know about that necessarily. I know las cannons are like the next step up, or the same level of like giant fuck you weaponry. So I mean, they both seem to have like a lot of energy and stuff that goes out, so they might have a long reload time or a long recharge time, but I'm not sure. That doesn't really play into the tabletop game itself. There is basically a tactical nuke you can use for one faction, but you have to like roll a dice every turn to see if it goes off or not. And it used to be, because the last edition used blast markers, and the biggest one was like a fucking large pizza pie tray over like a 48-inch board. And then like now there's no blast markers anymore, so you just roll like 3 or 4 d6s, and that's how many hits you get. So it's kind of cheating the person that buys like the $80 model just for the one fire once per game weapon that might or might not go off. It's like wow, this is a real big fucking ask. This goes off.
We've perfected interstellar space travel and got energy compact enough to make, or energy storage powerful enough to make energy weapons possible, but our nukes may or may not go off.
Yeah, it's kind
they
of
run
weird.
on floppies. You know, you can never trust that stuff.
Shit.
We've mastered cloning people with concrete and iron for bones, but we can't do a nuke.
We put 6 hearts in an 8-foot marine.
And they have the video games. What's that thing called where they wipe out a planet? Because everything sounds vaguely Latin. It's like Exterminatus or something.
Maybe. I haven't really, besides the Warhammer like RTS games, I haven't, like Dawn of War, like I haven't really played any of the other Warhammer games.
Oh.
I know there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a little. Yeah.
There's even like a tabletop like strategy simulator game. You can basically like not actually have to buy or pay any of the miniatures. You can just like basically download people's patches and ROMs and shit, and just fucking make a game out of that.
Well, Jeff Bezos needs to work on making those spaceships that the humans use that look like cathedrals in space. Those are some cool looking spaceships.
There is a model for fucking the one faction I play was Astra Militarum. I don't know what edition it was in. It's basically like the new Mortal Engines movie. It's a giant fucking cathedral on tank treads. Shit ton of howitzers and like big guns sticking out of it. And it's supposed to be something where you're just like, yep, you take this and have X number of units embarked upon it that can fire all of the guns. And it has this many hit points and this toughness and this stat and this stat. And like the only time I've ever seen it was once on eBay and somebody wanted like $2,000 for it. And I was like, yeah, this looks really cool, but it looks like it weighs about like 40 pounds and it looks like it's 6 feet tall. So I don't know if this is gonna work. And so I don't.
I'm here to do some tabletop gaming. Boom! It's like you threw a bowling ball on the table.
And then somebody like, that's not even legal. It's like, well, I got the rules for it right here. Because apparently there's this old race that people want to bring back. They're called the Squats, which is their words for dwarves in 40K. And apparently they had blimps and like trains and shit. So everybody had tanks and they had like airships dropping bombs and like trains with guns attached to them and shit. Running across the board, little tiny midget men with guns running around. And like that does sound really cool, but they refuse to bring them back or post new rules for them so nobody can play them. So it's that, and there's a bunch of other shit that they refuse to bring back, which is kind of disappointing, like giant rats in space with guns. So there's a lot of cool potential that they keep pumping out more Space Marine armies, and everybody's kind of pissed because nobody wants more Space Marines. But yeah,
So many.
there is. Anyway, on to something more interesting than what I only care about. Nobody else really seems to care about. But
Oh no, I think it's interesting. I mean, it's something I don't know very much about. So
no, I know it's kind of more like I've gone down the rabbit hole, so now I care more about it than I should. But
so you watched some Black Mirror,
Yeah, just the one episode, the first episode.
USS Callister.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty dark.
yeah. Have you seen it? Should we just spoil it for you?
sure.
Okay, it starts off. It's just is it Jesse Plemons? Is that
I
the
think so. I think that's how you say his
the
name.
guy who
I
looks
know-
like
I know
Matt
from
Damon's
Fargo.
younger, fatter brother?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
The guy that was in Fargo season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He makes a really good, like, he looks like a 60s leading man. Like, he's like kind of barrel chested with a big chin, but not really like cut in any way like they do.
He looks like a real person.
Yeah.
Guy's
Well-
only 29.
Huh.
Really? He's only
I was
20
Yeah, I was
okay.
surprised at that.
I guess
He was
it's
in
like-
Fargo too. He was season 2.
Yeah.
The guy's
guess-
wife or gal's
guess-
wife.
I guess his barrel-chested chubbiness affects his age well. Anyway,
So it's like, yeah, it's this thing that basically looks like Star Trek, but even more trite, maybe.
Yeah, all the worst parts, all the corniest parts of Star Trek are amplified in Callister.
And then like, so you get to that, and that kind of like goes to like, you know, is there? Yeah, there's a credit sequence, right? It goes to a credit sequence.
Yeah, that's the
Oh.
one they look like they spent the most money on this year.
And then it comes back, and it's just like, and it's Jesse Plemons again, and he's just like a schlubby dude. He's like has receding hairline, and he's going to work, and you find out that he's the chief technical officer of this company that they call Callister, which he got to name it after. He's supposed to be like the co-owner, but he's just the chief technical officer. Officer.
Ocelot.
And then the guy who like runs, he's the president. He kind of basically like basically stole the company kind of from him, but he still gets to work on all solving the problems and stuff like that. But nobody really gives a shit about it. He's just like, oh, he's just this lonely guy. And then they have what is basically VR, where you attach like context to the side of your head, and then you just kind of go into a dream world that's just VR. And then they make this game. I can't remember what the game's called, but the technology is called the Infinity Engine, where it's basically like just some online space stuff or whatever. Actually, I don't even know if it's space. It could be everything. It's called the Infinity Engine. It could be anything. And you find out that he's taking all his coworkers from work, and he's putting them in his own version of the game for this old space show.
But he's actually taking he has some machine where he takes their DNA and actually completely recreates these people in the game world, and they think they're the people in the real world. But he can just torture them and do horrible things to them, but they're living through this, because like when he's away, when he's at work or whatever, they're just sitting around trying to get drunk, and they're miserable because time never stops for them. So it's a lot more dark and sinister than just like a computer sim. Because remember what he did to the guy's kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he
got the kid out there a lot.
Yeah, and made him watch. And as far as that kid was concerned, he was the real kid. And so yeah, it was a bleak episode on a lot of levels, but it has an upbeat ending.
Yeah, they actually like get out of it, and then his world that he created himself is like deleted, and he's either dead or in some super coma. And they get like, and they're like released into the game world that they make. So it's like they're in this online game world, but like they're still in a spaceship, and they're just like, all right, well, let's find out where to go. So now they're basically like a space crew, but they're all people who work at this. They're all like basically computer programmers and shit like that. But now they're in this computer world, and like they think they feel and exist as real people. Like there's nothing like, and they have their genitals again, so they're happy about that.
Yeah, they get their genitals back.
Is that the first thing they checked when they jump?
Pretty much.
Yeah, kind of is. Well,
it comes up. The other people have been there a long time, and the what's that actress's name? Christy Milioti or whatever. She's like in the lady who's nice to him, the new employee that's nice to him in the real world, and he steals her coffee cup and recreates her in the fantasy world. But yeah, the one guy takes his. I always think of that guy from This guy's from Westworld, but he takes his pants off, and there's like no genitals. He's just like a giant Ken doll.
It's because like in the Space Fleet was like the name of the show that the guy really liked. That he recreates for himself. Like, it's a family-friendly universe, so there's no genitals. So he's not like raping people for fun or anything like that. But like when he goes to like kiss them and they don't want to be kissed, it's just as effective. It's like, oh, he's trying to rape her with his mouth.
Yeah. And the scenarios he creates to play through as the captain, he's like, oh, it's always easily defeatable, and he thinks he's a hero, and but he's always got the right answer. And I like when the new lady, she's like, what do I do to make this work? And they're like, just press any button, it'll do it. Like nothing. It's like it's just a stupid game. There's nothing real about it.
But yeah, so I got to the end of the episode, and I was immediately bummed out because I was like, oh man, this is like the perfect start for a new television show.
Yeah.
And I was like, but apparently they might make it into a television series.
I could see that.
Because like it has two things going for it. It's like, one, you can have your standard ass like just like thrown together crew space, comedy drama thing, like, say like Farscape or Firefly.
Yeah.
You get to do that too, but then you can have like the social commentary stuff that you can do in the real world.
Yeah, it's got the whole Matrix thing going and everything.
Yeah. And it's like the stuff where you can find like an existential things about like, are they real people? Like, are people gonna find out that like, how is the technology working in the universe? Like, are they gonna be considered real people? Are people gonna try to kill them now? What kind of like economy exists in this game? Because one of the first things they do in order to like work one over the guy is that they blackmail themselves because they have like the passwords to their accounts, and like she blackmails herself to get her to like steal stuff from the one guy's apartment, because like she has access to her like one of her accounts that has like sexy pictures on it, and so their first interaction with the real world is to blackmail people. so it's like I just like the possibilities are like really good, and like it's a good cast too, and it would be really interesting to see what they could do. But I don't know if it's gonna happen, but that'd be really fucking interesting, because that's a real fucking interesting start to like a ragtag space comedy drama.
Yeah, that you could relate directly to the real world, like in some way.
And I was like thinking about like the stuff where it's like are essentially these people like they're essentially like immortal now, but like they can only exist as long as the game goes, and it's like games like this, the most they can last is like, well, how long has WoW lasted? Like 15 years or something like that. It's like, so no, they're not immortal. They got like 20 years.
Yeah, they don't have infinite runway here. Where could this lead?
And how does their memory work? Like, do they remember everything forever because they have the efficiency of a computer, or is they built in that fallibility of like when you were scanned in? Like, can they forget stuff now? Like, how human are they, or how machine-like are they?
Yeah, it seemed it was an episode with a lot of things going on a lot of levels. And the thing was, at first you kind of felt sorry for the guy. It's like, oh, here's this pathetic kind of technical guy, computer guy that lives in this fantasy world, and then you find out like the dark underpinning of his fantasy world is like, oh, these aren't just computer simulations he's tearing apart and tormenting for fun. These people think they're real. And death is could be real for them, and it's like, then you come to hate him, and you're like, oh good, he's whatever. At the end he's trapped in a logic loop for eternity, or whatever happened to him. But yeah, it was a good. I'd say there's like 4 strong episodes in Black Mirror this year.
Okay.
Some of them.
Was there 12 or 10 or something?
I think there's like 10.
Okay.
I don't know if let me look. I don't know if I've seen them all. I think I have. See, the thing is, watching anything on Netflix requires I sit in the living room.
Oh.
Which is not something that I do a lot, so. If it's gonna get me in the living room, it's got to be good.
It used to be a time when people were drawn to the living room, Nathan. Like, come on.
Oh, there's only 6 so far.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think that's still their production cycle. 6, but they're not going to take 3 years off in between them or whatever. So. But yeah, that was a very, very good episode. You could tell they threw some money at it too. They had good production values. I mean, the space stuff was like, oh, this is like any sci-fi show on TV right now.
Yeah.
Vaguely looked like what was that comedy that Sigourney Weaver and Tim Allen did?
Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, vaguely had a Galaxy Quest look to it, but definitely seemed Star Trek to me.
And speaking of sci-fi shows on Netflix, has anybody seen the trailer for Altered Carbon that comes out later this month?
No, I didn't know
Really?
they were making that a TV show.
Yeah, it comes out in like
Oh.
a week and a half.
Jesus
Who's gonna
Christ!
be in there? I can't believe I missed that.
Who is that? Who's in it?
Hold on, I'm going to the internet. Fuck this.
I just watched. It's I don't know who's in it necessarily. I know it's not really anybody I know by name, but it's Altered Carbon, and it comes out like 26th of January, something like that. It's all episodic. It looks a lot like Blade Runner, and
Oh, we've read the book, so
okay,
it's one of our lost episodes.
okay. I was gonna say that it comes out at least like a week or a week and a half from now. So
That's part of the Takeshi Kovacs series.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
whole
Joel Kinnaman plays Takashi Kovac in this one.
Okay, I can. I mean, well, technically that guy can be anything, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's. I don't know if they explain it in the trailer, but like this is a universe where you can like, it's expensive to travel space.
Yeah.
But you can basically send data like forever.
Yeah.
So like the way to travel planets is they just have bodies hanging out, and you send your consciousness to that body on another planet. So this guy's kind of like a freelance kind of private eye ex-military guy, and so they bring him in to like try to solve this murder. It's a murder, right?
Yeah, well, kind of a murder.
Okay.
Suicide as much as a murder.
Okay.
I mean, they
Oh,
kind of,
yeah, this is the real deal. I had no idea. Oh, yeah, Netflix's most expensive miniseries so far. Okay, well, somebody finally did it then.
All right. Yeah, we've been kind of like waiting for that. Like, when's that going to be turned into something? Because it was like a month ago, we're asking like, what the fuck's Richard K. Morgan doing? Because he seemed to like do a bunch of stuff for video games, but not much for books anymore.
Yeah.
because otherwise, there's a good miniseries coming out on Netflix as well. I think it's just called Greed, where it's like 4 or 5 different stories about between the guy that hiked all the prices on like AIDS medication and stuff like that, and his trial, and then the corruption of Wall Street, and then all these different like Volkswagens fucking over everybody and claiming their cars were eco-friendly when they weren't. And it's kind of just covering multiple bases of like, hey, the rich people are fucking us over.
Is that one just called Greed?
I think it's just called Greed.
Because I remember seeing like something called Rotten. That seemed
It
like
might be Rotten. I thought
Okay.
it was called Greed. But no, it's other than that, like the only other thing, there was the reenactment life story of the guy that did National Lampoon magazine that has from Last Man on Earth, what's his name, in the lead role.
Oh God, yeah.
Because that comes out like this week or next week. That looks really good.
Huh.
Because it just like has them like in the trailer, like them putting out the first issue, like, guys, this is a fucking flop when you turn this shit around, and them just like, can we borrow your dog? And like, you're not gonna hurt him, right? And then they just like put the gun up to his head, and it's like, don't worry, it's not loaded. And then they just show the iconic cover where it's like, we'll shoot this dog if you don't buy this magazine
Yep.
or whatever. And then it just goes to like every week somebody else is pissed off at him, like nuns are pissed off at us, feminists hate us, and like all this other shit. And they're just like, well, in fairness, we probably shouldn't have had Minnie Mouse flashing her tits, but she didn't have pasties on or whatever it is. It's like, and it has the guy that's the actual head of the guy that started National Lampoon magazine. I didn't realize it was the guy I'd seen in like Roseanne and stuff like that. Played Leon and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I knew that guy. Like I didn't know he was the helped found National Lampoon, because it has like famous people like Joe McHale as like Chevy Chase and shit, and like Vacation and shit.
Okay.
And just like reenacting Animal House and Vacation and all our iconic properties and movies and telling their life story and shit. And it seems really interesting.
I want to say that like they got their start in college doing like radio drama or radio comedy, essentially like radio improv comedy.
Oh really?
And it was like Chevy Chase. It was like all that first SNL crew was like a lot of those guys. It was the Belushi and all them, Chevy Chase and Gilda Radner and stuff like that.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Is it based on any kind of like book or anything, or are they just?
I think it's just based upon the story or
Okay.
the founding of National Lampoon.
Sorry, I got down an Altered Carbon wormhole. Yeah, more expensive than a season or the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. They say it's Netflix's riskiest investment.
I didn't know. I mean, it looked
Well, you
really...
said it's just a mini series, right? So they're probably not gonna do multiple seasons of it.
I don't know if it's I don't know. Because Altered Carbon's an insanely complicated book just to explain what the hell is going on. Because it's looking like 12 episodes. So I'm guessing the first 3 are just explaining the world, and then the other ones will be the actual story. Because there's how many Takashi Kovac novels are there? 3? Because there's
Woken Furies,
Altered Carbon, Woken Furies, Broken Angels.
Okay.
And then, I think that's it.
Huh.
Because which was the one? Because in one of them, they bring back the leader of the rebellion. And that was kind of where it ended. I can't remember. It's been a while. the last one.
I've only read Woken Furies and Altered Carbon. So.
Yeah, they're all good.
Woken Furies is just kind of a complicated bank heist.
Yeah, super complicated bank heist.
Well, I hope it doesn't bankrupt Netflix. I'm not that it would bankrupt Netflix, but I hope it doesn't, downturn them at all because they have a lot of good shows.
No, they don't
Well,
seem to care
Strong
about.
source material, so
They don't.
No,
seem,
I know, but that doesn't mean it doesn't translate into a hit or anything.
No, but if this is just one miniseries, then I think I don't know.
Well, sorry.
If fucking Bright can hit its numbers, who?
As soon as he said it's more expensive than the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, I was like, holy fucking shit.
Well, that just means it costs like $250
No,
million.
because they just spent the $1 billion on acquiring the fucking rights to Lord of the Rings.
No, that was Amazon.
that was Amazon.
Oh, sorry. Okay, never mind. So negate what I just said for that. At the same time, it's like they have a lot of fucking irons in the fire as far as keeping series going. They have BoJack Horseman. They have fucking Ozarks. They have Orange is the New Black. Love. Oh, God, there's so many other fucking episodes.
Yeah, they have tons of things.
I know. I'm just saying that's a lot of fucking money out the door. I know they're bringing in a lot too.
Speaking of Amazon, did you hear the thing about Jeff Bezos this week?
What's that?
He is the richest man in the world
Yeah.
and the richest man that has ever existed. He has 2 things now because he's worth like $170 billion or something. Now, I don't know how much of that you can make into liquid assets and turn into gold bars, but it was some crazy number. I was like, I didn't know he was that rich. But he's building spaceships, so
Oh, that's good.
God, who isn't building spaceships or self-driving cars?
Hey, that's the future I want. I want to get off this fucking planet.
I'm not that it's a bad thing, multiple people, because it's better to have multiple idea trees than it is just one. But at the same time, it's like, God's sakes, Google, Uber, Tesla, and what's the other 4th company that's doing a self-driving car?
Well, Google and Uber, Google and Tesla are the only people manufacturing them right now.
Well, I thought Uber is also looking into it or trying to do
Well,
it.
they want to. Well, that's
they'll probably just license technology from the other 2.
yeah. The Ford and GM are working feverishly. I see them around here. They're at the over at the U of M Tech Center because it's cars like mine with weird antennas, like weird bar antennas on them, and you see them driving around. Now, there's always people in them, and they seem to have their hands on the steering wheel, so I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, everyone's feverishly trying to make these self-driving cars.
Well, because I know they announced there was a test for the first cargo load by a self-driving, not a car, but a
semi-truck. Yeah.
Semi this week. But also Rockwell, where we live, and stuff has been bought out by UTC, and that was approved this week. But I guess by reading the article, I didn't realize that basically they had to merge with UTC to create the new aerospace division because Boeing was actually hiring their own engineers to replace all Rockwell's work, so Rockwell would have went out of business otherwise because I guess they didn't have any customers after that. So it was, I don't know, there's a lot of people with their hand in the cookie jar as far as building fucking rockets or self-driving cars or other
Well,
that's kind of the future.
Yeah, I know it's kind of the future, but at the same time, I'm not really sold on self-driving cars because it just, I don't know.
Well, it'll work. It'll work in certain areas. And in other areas, it'll just be wildly inappropriate. And
we'll just all become New Yorkers. It's like, oh, that's transportation.
Yeah, well, it'll work. I want to see him. I want to see him induce a slide on ice. I want to see what a self-driving car will do to correct that.
Well, what do your anti-lock brakes do?
They pulse 60 times a second. That's all they do.
Yeah, but you don't do that, right? The computer does that for you.
Well, I'm responsible for the rest of the. So I have all-wheel drive. When it goes into a skid, it gives me a warning and it corrects. But I'm still the main person in charge of that, and I'm fully aware of my environment
the computer
at a much deeper level than than some LiDAR machine where it's just a bunch of spots and distances. And
to be fair, the computer in the car is never gonna scream "fuck" as loud as I can during that point. That's gonna save me from any crash that might happen. It's just me going "fuck, fuck" over and over again until I stop. Like, everybody knows that's the power.
Well, the self-driving cars will be the thing of the future until the next generation of viruses come along and shut down an entire city's transit system.
Well, that's my main worry, but also the fact that...
Oh, don't worry. You're not going to be able to afford this shit for years.
No, I know, but at the other end of the spectrum, too, is that I think it'll pretty much create ride sharing because multiple people own the one car because they'll just keep transitioning.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, nobody buys a car anymore. You just, you go in...
Everybody has a time
you
share.
You timeshare a fucking car.
But then I would kind of hate that because I'm like, fucking Gary left his goddamn breakfast wrappers in here again or something.
Yeah, you'll hate that, but this is all shit for the next generation who's going to be a lot more populous than what we are. Yeah. There's only more people coming.
Well,
unless the viruses work out. And I don't mean the computer ones. I mean, there's shit going on between Korea and China, and I mean South Korea. South Korea, China, and places, and there's stuff going on there where there's no moral constraints at all. It's only a matter of time before hell just comes out of a test tube. It's because it's either that's going to kill us, or if you listen to Kurzweil and Sam Harris, it's going to be like, well, when we invented AI in Southern California, and everyone's like, how do we know? It's because when the Chinese nuke Southern California, because whoever has AI first wins, because nothing can beat that, supposedly. But then again, too, you talk to, this guy's a computer science, he's got multiple PhDs at MIT. It's like, how close are we to hard AI? And he's like, about 400 years. Well, you listen to some of these guys, it's like these computers we have now are just magic tricks. They operate in a very narrow frame, and they don't interface with reality in a way that they can really alter their universe. So don't worry about the metal ones taking over. Worry about viruses first. So that's what'll wipe, or just overpopulation, or just our food turning into shit, which is when you read things about, because I've always been, one of my biggest curiosities is always why is bread so bad but it tastes so good? What the fuck's bread? It's just ground up wheat, and then you look at what they did to wheat and how they genetically modified it to make it more easier to grow with less pests, and you realize, and your body turns it into sugar. It's like that bread didn't used to be like that, and we're not talking 5,000 years ago. We're talking 70 years ago. So that's, there's a lot of ways we're going to die, but I don't think self-driving cars are going to be the one.
Well, there's a lot of talk, too, with all the agricultural pesticides and waste that keep going into water supplies, and it's getting harder and harder to find clean water and shit, too. Even in the United States, where it's just
the guy from The Big Short, I mean, he's now looking into water as the next thing that's going to be a scarcity.
Yeah, there'll be water wars.
Yeah.
But that's because of just gross human overpopulation, and a kind of human overpopulation that's completely non-productive. I mean, if you had human overpopulation where every hand was involved in helping every other hand keep the world going, it's like that would be bad, but it would be productive. But no, what you have now is 6 to 15% of the people in the world having all the wealth, and everyone else essentially digging holes in the ground for water or a place to shit. And the only difference now and 500 years ago is now they might be using a shovel with a plastic handle versus one with a wood handle. That's the problem with overpopulation in the world, because there's no overpopulation problem in Europe. There's no overpopulation problem in America. There's massive overpopulation problems in countries that, it's just like India. They were trying to break that down once into how could India transform into a first world, modern nation? And it's like, well, eliminate half their population. Just step one. Step one is eliminate just people that just live in muddy poverty. And how do you lift people out of that? And it's like,
or as Trump would call it, shithole countries.
Yeah, or as our president would say. But you just look at ways to like, they try to think of ways to like, how can we make the world better? And it's like it's only really great for a very small percentage of the population. Everywhere else, people are pretty much living ancestors did, but now there's refrigerators and like electrical lines running through, and maybe not even to their houses, just running by.
Yeah, that's.
And that was the thing with the Microsoft programmers in India in the 80s and the 90s, is like these guys were smart enough to program computers, but they literally didn't have water coming into their house or flush toilets. It's like, that is so out of whack. It's like you've skipped a few steps. Because hard things, infrastructure, things for people, it's difficult to work with. Machine computers make it more efficient, but they don't make it happen, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, when people go to work and they work with something or technology that's so advanced it's better than their whole neighborhood they live in, that's kind of fucking weird.
Oh yeah.
It's like going to work on the space station and coming home to a hole in the ground.
That's a lot of the world is like that.
Yeah, because we invest in technology, not people.
Yeah,
Well, and what can
We expect people to adapt, not technology.
if there was a way they could inject knowledge into people without the learning process, but nobody knows how to do that yet. That might alleviate a lot of it. Like if you could take third world farmers and suddenly just teach them in an hour or whatever. It's like, this is how modern farming works, and they'd see the logic of it, and they would probably go that way. But there's no way to do that. So.
Sorry, I thought of a bad joke when you're like injecting people with learning and showing them. It's like, there's plenty of teachers that have taught kids to love.
Yeah.
With very few lessons and hands-on learning experiences, it seems to have gone well. Maybe if you could just
Well, that's kind of stuff we're hardwired to do.
How do I inject this knowledge? Anal suppository. No one learned.
Just write the equation for pi on somebody's tits and then flash somebody. They'll learn it. They'll learn it real
Yeah,
well.
if an A on a test equaled a blowjob every time, we'd have a bunch of Rhodes scholars running around. There wouldn't be enough. Harvard wouldn't be big enough to contain them all. But yeah, it's got to find ways to motivate people that don't involve slavery. But we're not good at that yet. Still haven't figured that out. Still have the basic same ideas in our economy that we did when this country was founded 300 years ago. It's like, how do we build our economy? Exploit people. It's used to bring them here. Now we're just going to their country with the work. Just exploit them. It's the same shit.
Yeah, but we still exploit people in our own goddamn country.
Well, yeah, we do, but
yeah, but it's not on the scale.
Yeah, it's not on the same repressive scale, yes, as mass abject poverty, but it's still poverty where you deny people the right to be able to express their rights of protest and trying to walk off the job for better terms and better rates, because nobody's going to walk off the job because A, they can't afford to leave work, and B, if they do leave work, they'll be fired, that they won't be able to afford to live anywhere or pay for food or medical expenses.
Everyone needs their own Patreon.
Support my Patreon page. I'll support your Patreon.
we would call that the zero-sum economy.
Well, I get all my money from this guy, and then I give all my money to that guy. That way, only one person's getting fucked in this whole chain.
I've never really looked at Patreon or even considered ever giving money to anybody on there, but it's basically being a hobo and begging online for the most part.
Yeah,
it's subsidizing. It's being a patron of whatever art or whatever these people are producing. It's kind of an old patronage system. Like, they're not really making a product you can buy and take home. You're just kind of like, oh, this guy can play the violin beautifully, I'm going to support him. That's how it used to work, and that's kind of what they're doing now.
It's kind of a what do you call that? What's that shit? Like endowment funds or whatever. Like they was it Fulbright, like stuff like that, where they're just like, hey, you're a genius, here's $1 million to do what you want.
Yeah, you're not really producing something that's going to equal a lot of shit coming out of the U.S. Mint for you, but we think what you're doing is important, so we're going to pay. It's like paying for poets and stuff. It's like you don't make a lot of money doing that, but it's beautiful when it's done right, and it's important to preserve it. And yeah, that's kind of what it is.
No, I guess I've seen stuff with Patreon from YouTube or like social media accounts where people ask for, pledges because either it's not sponsored advertisement for YouTube or whatever service they're on because it doesn't fit their advertising scheme or shit like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how much it had devolved into basically just people asking for money outright for nothing. Because people have done that for a long time on the internet where they just on GoFundMe or, Kickstarter where it's just like they have no intention of delivering anything, they just want money.
I mean, Patreon, it's more of an ongoing thing. It's more because like Kickstarter, it's always like here's the one thing, but you never know if anything happens. But like a lot of Patreon people, it's a lot of artists and stuff like that. But like I know with Danny O'Dwyer, he makes a bunch of video game documentaries.
Yeah.
So that's where I saw that one about the Horizon Zero Dawns. He did a documentary about it, and he's on Patreon and. All his stuff's available for free on YouTube, and you can watch any of it. And like, he doesn't ask for anybody to, but he has like kind of like reward tiers or whatever. It's like if we can get enough money coming in each month, I'll be able to do more documentaries and stuff like that or add things. So that's kind of like the incentive. Because like I used to give to his Patreon, but I don't anymore. I had to like cut some money, so I cut some of my Patreons or all of them.
But didn't you hear the good news about Walmart Conlon?
Oh, yeah, they're going to give me more money, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're cutting my hours, huh?
No, because I like the article I read in the paper where it's like, thanks to President Trump's huge, massive tax break, Walmart's going to raise the starting wage at their stores from 9 to 11. And then, that's spurred by the growth.
Oh, you mean what most states require?
Yeah, but then at the same time, they're like, oh, yeah, but we're closing like 480 Sam's Club and 40 Walmart locations at the same time.
Yeah.
And then it's like they've had studies and documentaries.
Oh, they'll probably increase the wages for all the Walmarts that don't exist inside the United States.
Well, the thing is, they've covered and had studies for years about how much it would take for Walmart literally go from $9 an hour from anywhere from $12 to $15 an hour. And it was literally just by raising prices on things by 1 or 2 cents a piece, and that's it. And
the macaroni scale, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so it's like, where it's basically like, hey, you just raise prices by a very tiny amount, pay for everybody and still make good profits, and everybody would still be happy. Or you can wait for your millions and millions of dollar tax break and give a little tiny percentage to it, and then close a bunch of stores and act like that's the reason why that stimulated the economy and blah blah blah. So I was kind of like, I don't know, pissed because it's Walmart doing their same old shit where they're fucking over the world.
Well, yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, it's the biggest of a dying breed.
Well, I know because it was.
It's the Brontosaurus of retailers.
They're still the largest private employer in America. So.
No, I know, but it's just there's. Did I bring it up before on this podcast where it was a PBS documentary that was about a year old that talked about this story? It was in South Carolina where Walmart was there, a supercenter, and then they decided to close up shop. And it wasn't because they weren't making a profit, they just weren't making enough of a profit.
Oh yeah, I mean that's every business. Like if you don't make more money than the money you made last year, then you're useless.
No, I know.
It doesn't matter that you're like, hey, we're making money, we can afford to keep the place open and pay people, and we're doing good business. It's like, did you do better business than last year? Then no, then everybody needs to be fired.
Yeah, but I think Walmart doesn't understand that the business is an up and down cycle. It's not just you keep making more and more money.
Oh, they hire people that understand. The people in control don't.
It's like literally you can't just exponentially make more money. It's mathematically impossible no matter what your business model is. There's no way in fuck you're gonna.
But they're not really. I mean, they're about making money, but really they're about putting other people out of business.
No, I know they are. But that's the thing. Once Walmart goes down, then there's nothing left to fill that void.
It's just Amazon.
Amazon's
stealing their lunch right now.
Well, Amazon, yes, but I'm talking about like an immediate grocery store in the vicinity of someone's house, or immediate like local needs shop like a pharmacy or a clothing store or something that fills that need besides Amazon.
There'll be super warehouses and you will just order shit and it will come to you. That's the future. No one wants to. You know why people love Amazon? Why they have so good high ratings? Because you don't gotta walk into a fucking store and talk to somebody.
So why is Amazon investing money in all these brick and mortar stores now, where they're literally you still don't have to?
Because they're acquiring land.
Yeah, all those Whole Foods, you can put a lot of boxes in those. Those places are made to hold boxes.
Well, that's the one thing like Walmart has over them right now. It's like, yeah, a food store. It's like you don't really want to. You can't really order vegetables from Amazon.
No.
Well, you probably can, but
well, unless you're gonna just set up an exact from the distributor to consumer from Amazon.
But they do have that.
Yeah.
They do have like it's not everywhere, but like in New York, places have it where it's like Amazon local, where you'll buy something on Amazon, and it'll come to you from a local distributor.
Yeah. No, because I know for like at least 2 or so years now, they've had the whole courier thing where it like only takes like 1 or 2 hours at most to get what you order, and it's usually the grocery or health and beauty items that are more perishable.
Yeah.
Type of thing, and that's fine, but that doesn't work for every city. Not every city has the infrastructure.
No, but like I'm saying, like once they get all of these drones out there, you'll just have these super warehouses, and everyone will be lazy and in their house ordering things. I don't know how they'll be making money, but
yeah, see, that's where the whole like the future. In the future, we'll be doing this. It's like, who's gonna buy your shit? It's just like at work, like the first week we came back, we got some pep talk about how we need to make some more money. We need to make some changes this year. So if you have any ideas about what we can do or how we can help, make more money, and never mind the fact they sold 1 million trucks and made more money than God. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, here's my idea. Just send it all to fucking China now. Just don't wait. Send it all. Send it all the fuck over there. And then once all the jobs are gone here, not just my job, but the people that work underneath us and supply us stuff, because they're all in China too. I don't know who's going to fucking buy these things, but go ahead and send it over there. Because I know the Chinese, coal miners and the Chinese people working in the iPhone factory, which, by the way, the suicides have started again. I don't know if anyone heard about that.
Yeah.
I know they're queuing up for $75,000 gold-plated pickups, because they're between the pound of rice they get paid a week and all that, they're going to be able to buy this shit. So, yeah, that's where this future world all disintegrates. It's like, who's going to buy this stuff? Nobody has a job. Nobody works at Walmart anymore. Nobody works at the gas station anymore. That's the other. Have you ever heard that whole scenario played out about what would happen if, like, just some abstract thing, for some reason we developed battery technology or some kind of energy technology, we don't need gasoline driven cars anymore? Do you know how fucking devastating that would be? All the gas stations that would just cease to exist, and how many people that would put out of work? How many people do you think that would put out of work? Just give me a guess, because I know.
Well,
but
I don't know if you've noticed, but they're slow. Well, 7-Eleven's been doing this for a while, but like gas stations aren't just gas stations anymore. They're like small grocery stores now.
Yeah, I've seen the trend. Yeah, like they're not just selling like gas, wipers and oil. Like they have like, oh, we'll make you coffee and you can have a Starbucks, mixed while you're here.
They'll have a bakery and shit like that, or a pizza oven and shit.
Yeah, but if nobody needs gas and they're not really thinking about stopping there anymore. I mean, it's 8.5 million jobs would literally vaporize in like a year. And what the fuck are those people going to do? Because it actually takes less parts and less labor to make a battery-powered car than an IC car, because you're not making an engine. You're just making, all the things that are involved in making an engine, that's X'd out, and it's just replaced with a battery. So you still have a transmission, stuff like that.
Well, see, I always thought what it would be is gas stations would become battery swapping stations. Like they just have like a supply of batteries, or all cars have the same battery, and like you're running on the limit of what your battery can take you because you're going cross country, and you pull into the battery station, it hikes up your car, installs a new battery, you pay something, and you keep on going like nothing happened.
Yeah, that might happen, but I'm going to tell you how, just like we know from tech companies and car companies, no one's ever going to agree to run on the other guy's battery when they can make money. So I mean, you're going to get into a huge government monopoly there. Like somebody's going to make all the batteries, and that's going to be allowed to be a monopoly. And then all the other people stick up their hands like, "Oh, I want to be a monopoly too."
Or
So-
you just have these weird charging way stations where just like everybody hangs out for an hour where their car charges and like shop at our grocery
Or
store.
roadways become like the train tracks of today, where the current runs under the road, so it always charges your battery while you're driving on the road. Just a direct-
Yeah, but just say, for instance, they had some miraculous battery technology where you charge it once a month for 10 minutes, and it's good for a whole month. Where you want to go coast to coast, you just got to charge it for 10 minutes. It's 8.5 million people, suddenly their jobs just vaporized.
Yeah,
I mean-
wouldn't the pickup in the infrastructure for power, but also more, I don't know, more job creation from repairing, maintaining batteries, recycling batteries, and the whole any service industry that springs up from that covers some of that gap.
Some of it, people that work in gas stations are not going to suddenly become nuclear battery technicians.
No,
Um,
I didn't mean that aspect of it. I just meant more or less like they could probably get a job as, physical labor at a battery recycling.
And I also don't think they'd lose their jobs overnight. It would just be a long, drawn-out course of
Well, they're just talking about all the buildings too that would be abandoned. It's just staggering. With the guys did a whole thing about it. And it was when you listen to the numbers, it's like that's crazy. What would they do? With those
yeah,
buildings?
but then you'll have some like weird business that comes in and figures out how to reclaim all the gas stations into another business. Hey, here's our drone operation. Here's Drone Sub. Get your subway from Drone Sub.
I don't
Drive-through
know-
machine guns.
Well, both these changes taking place where there's no retail, where you have to literally go out and buy anything anymore, but you also don't need to fill up on gas to really go anywhere anymore anyway. What the hell's the point of A, having a car, or B, having, with all the retail space, all the gas station space, and all the support for retail space, like all the trucking companies and stuff like that, not that they still wouldn't have inventory to move, but not on the sheer scale what Walmart has its trucking company.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's a zero-sum game. I mean, it all this shit that they're calling progress. You might as well just launch all the fucking nuclear weapons, because it's going to equal the same thing when it's over. There's going to be nothing left. I mean, an early symptom of it we're seeing is all these people that are on all these drugs and just left, right, and center all the time. Those aren't people that I think drugs are fun. A lot of those people are people I just I don't have any reason to live anymore. There's nothing for me. I mean, this isn't a few isolated cities in the South or something. This is all over now. It's all over here. It's all over there. And I sometimes wonder how many of these overdoses aren't just fucking straight out. I'm punching out. I'm going out heroin style, because there is, all this stuff leads to nothing.
But I mean, all this stuff is also like 50 to 100 year and beyond our lifetime in the future. So.
Yeah, well, unless they figure out a way to keep them alive longer.
Because
so
the continued
us for more
continued investment and innovation of the combustion engine, there's no future for that.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. We'll see where this new
So basically
technology
what you're
takes us.
saying is if you're in the food industry, that everybody needs food no matter what, pretty much you're okay.
Well, no, they can. Yeah, those big combines and tractors can all be self-driving too.
No, I didn't mean combines and tractors. I meant literally in the production of food to eat. Not like farmers, but just hey, you work at Subway, or you work a job like I do where you make machines that package food. That pretty much isn't going anywhere, because unless they have a way to milk a cow directly into your mouth through a wormhole or something, that's not gonna. Cartons for milk aren't gonna go away.
Although, start your investing now. You start investing in bug food. Not foods for bugs, but bugs as food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the future.
Like Snowpiercer or like a bunch of other movies.
Because we'll need more food for all these people.
They don't
and
have
also,
jobs, so it has to be cheap.
yeah, and also like bugs are the most efficient, like protein, and they have less infect in the environment in a whole.
And spiders could gang up and eat us all in 1 year. Spider Burden. A new novel.
No, it's just I don't know. It just seems really weird to be contemplating all this just from basically self-driving cars and Amazon drones bringing everything you need. Because as soon as they announce like, oh, we're just gonna have blimps in the sky with inventory, I'm just picturing one of those blimps going down and taking out a house. That's all I'm picturing. Not just the drones delivering shit everywhere. Just like, yeah, what happens when one of those fucking blimps goes, hey, just like suffers a catastrophic failure and takes out a city block? What then?
I don't know what they do with the Hindenburg.
Oh, the humanity.
But I'm just talking about, like, I know the shit I buy on Amazon just out of convenience. I could have got that at Walmart.
Hey, the heater
But
I
it
bought
was 2 a.m. and I couldn't fix my controller.
Hey, the heater I bought today at Menards was $45 cheaper on Amazon. All I had to do was wait 2 more days for it. So, I mean, it's...
So I just, like, I know, and, like, I'm not that lazy of a person, and I know how lazy I could be, and I'm applying that to future people.
I don't know.
So, like, everyone's going to get their money by robbing Amazon trucks and Amazon drones, and there's just going to be this black market out there.
So there's just going to be people in, like, leather jackets with barbed wire baseball bats.
And then the only other job available to you is, if you don't have a criminal record, is you sue those people. So it'll be a private police force for Amazon.
Yeah, it'll be Amazon.gov.
And if they do better work than the actual police force, then they will take over the contract of the government police force.
Have you ever seen Elysium? Kind of where it's going.
Maybe.
Get your brand strong. get loyal branding right now.
It's not going to go home right now and cancel my Amazon Prime membership.
Did you hear that, Alexa?
Ask Alexa if she works for the government.
Alexa, do you work for the government?
No, I work for Amazon.
See, we all will.
Alexa, do you record my conversations?
Alexa, do you record my conversations?
I only send audio back to Amazon when I hear you say the wake word. For more information and to view Amazon's privacy notice, visit the help section of your Alexa app.
That's just fucking
Alexa
creepy.
was-
No, I actually heard like how it works. Like, it's not recording. It only uses a certain amount of like RAM or whatever. Like, it has to be in a low powered state, and so it's only listening for the wake word.
Oh, which is Alexa.
Yeah. So like, it does not do anything until it hears the wake word.
I like the SNL joke version better, where it's like it answers to anything halfway resembling the wake word, where it's like Alfonso. It's like Allegra. They're like, damn it! It's just like the old people one that comes in like carved wood or brass.
Well, my dad keeps calling it Alexis. Like a Lexus. Like, car? It's a Lexus. Alexis, what's the weather outside?
Does it respond or does it recognize that's not?
Occasionally it does respond.
Oh. Are they getting any use out of that? Are they enjoying that?
Yeah, somewhat. I don't know.
Do they have?
Asshole, what's the weather?
They ask for the weather like all the time.
Do they have the light bulb that turns on and off?
Yeah.
How's that work? Pretty good.
Yeah, it's fine. Sometimes if the internet's not working, like, that won't work.
Oh, okay.
But otherwise, it just works.
I found her disturbing the other day when I was researching replacing one of my bathroom vents. that you can actually get one now that's Bluetooth compatible, so you can like take phone calls and listen to music through a bathroom vent. So not only can I take a stinky shit, but I can also talk to somebody through.
I did like the light up. They have a toilet seat that lights up when you walk in. So if you don't want to turn the light on in the morning, it throws a blue incandescent light down into the bowl.
I wanted to talk to me. I'm like, I'm ready for you to take a dump in my face. just something so it makes you really want to take a shit in the morning. Just
remember when the Family Guy, when Peter Griffin and the guys went to South Korea and they were looking for a hotel, and he's like, I want a toilet that when I take a dump in it, it goes yum 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 yum. And they're like, yes, we have one, you know. Because the Asians have the crazy toilet. This is one of them bidets. We're living high, you just spray shit all over the wall. Isn't that fancy?
Hey Elmer, turn it on mist.
Or get one of those things. Remember those wacky water things where you plugged it in and the water would shoot out of the thing's head, and it had those straws that would just fur. That's my bidet. Cleans my whole body. Of course, the floor is rotted through. House smells like a open trench sewer.
But damn, is my asshole clean.
I'm fancy.
Get me that fancy glass beer instead of that can.
Eat
Well,
that buffet off my asshole.
Look at how clean that is.
Honey, get the spray cheese. Get the fancy stuff for my butthole.
I don't know if this is a dare or some weird sexual.
Well, you've heard about anal bleaching, right? Okay, well now there's dick bleaching. People want to lighten up their penises.
Okay, I didn't know that was a concern. But...
In Thailand, I guess it is. Thailand, where everyone's soul left their body like 500 years ago, and anything's possible.
Or you could just wash your dick occasionally. That might help with the darkness.
No, this is actually making the skin lighter.
No,
like,
I know. Yeah. It just at first.
I remember I saw an episode of True Life where there was it was about like people who don't really identify with the race they are.
Yeah.
And there was this black girl. She'd like buy this like it was like acid for your skin. It would make her skin lighter.
Well, that sounds pleasant.
Yeah.
Put some acid on it.
So it's like that was fucking weird.
That's terrifying. Wonder what that would do to people like us. Would we just become clear?
No, it'd just be like
you can see his muscle structure.
No, I think we just become more red at that point as your vein network will more readily apparent.
I was gonna say maybe it'd just be like the movie Powder, except we're not as struck by lightning as in.
No.
I don't know.
No, we just turn into veiny red pulp things. It wouldn't be as pink. I'm not comfortable with the shade of pink. Would never buy a car this color.
I want to look 18th century English.
Wonder when powder wigs are going to make a comeback. You know, what's old is new. I want to see guys rocking that again.
When headlights make a comeback.
I don't know, that'll probably be the next hipster movement. It's like, how can we look even more like douchebags and use antiquated technology and
I always
idiisms?
thought the Doctor Who that had the best fashion sense was John Pertwee. It takes a real crazy guy to rock the outfits that the third Doctor had. You know, with those frilled collars and stuff. Is like that needs to come back. The really complicated clothes.
Just get back to 3-piece suits and shit.
Yeah, double-breasted suits.
We also really need that lead powder makeup and to go along with the powdered wigs. You know, sell the whole gimmick.
Take arsenic to look younger again.
Yeah, we need to start putting mercury in hats again too. Start really stepping up our game.
Or start putting makeup on, but like not makeup like to look good, but like makeup on to look like you you were going to be in a movie that's filming in black and white, so you look like some sort of like baby whore.
Baby whore. The geisha makeup and shit.
Have you ever seen Buster Keaton, like a colored picture of like what he had to look with how they made his makeup when he was in a black and white movie?
No.
It's basically just like white stuff with like rouge stuff on the side. It looked like someone drunkenly threw makeup on his face.
I still like
the limitations of the technology at the time.
Yeah, I still like some of the lighting they had to do back then, where the actors' clothes would start smoking. It was so much like super bright incandescent lights. Because a lot of that film was really hard to pick up anything unless you just lit the hell out of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, acting was not comfortable back then.
I liked how they talked about the shot in Wizard of Oz where you go from like when Dorothy's house touches down, it's like still the sepia tone, like the dirty yellow kind of like dark tone, and where they talked about like, oh yeah, it's like Judy Garland's right behind her and she's in full color, but you just have the stunt double actress like covered in yellow body paint makeup from head to toe, and like a yellow checkered patterned dress, and then as soon as the door opens, Judy Garland steps in front, and then it becomes color, and so it wasn't like huge nice transition shot. It was just them playing with light and doing stupid shit. So it was kind of a weird, or not weird, but kind of a cool factoid.
Yeah, my favorite kind of thing like that is in RoboCop, there's a part where he has like heat vision. He's like looking through walls and he can see the people.
Yeah.
So they didn't actually have like thermal vision.
Yeah.
Like at the time they had like you had like the Predator vision thing.
Yeah.
But that was like it took a whole semi truck to shoot that, and you couldn't move the camera.
Yeah.
So they just looked into like a book and it said like, here's how heat vision sees things, and then basically they put people in suit and they painted them to look like the heat signature. So it's just people walking around a black studio that's like a blacklight studio with the heat signature suit on, and because like I guess most of the heat goes like your crotch and your head, and so that's how it looks like. And it's just people walking around in painted suits. It's not actually heat vision.
Gotta save that money.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of movies, me and Conlon watched a movie.
Well, Dan, did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch it recently.
Okay.
Yeah, watched.
Was it Debbie
I
Does
watched
Dallas?
this Friday. No, well, I did, but I'm not going to talk about that. This is old porn movies. There's something to watch. Like, wow, everyth's changed.
Sorry not to break topic because I'm not trying to delay you anymore, but there's a Criterion collection for Valley of the Dolls. Isn't that like a kind of an old like raunchy movie, or is that just like a?
I'm not sure about Valley. I remember Return to the Valley of Dolls is.
I think it's just the Valley of the Dolls.
Return to the Valley of I don't know what the Valley of Dolls is. I know Return to the Valley of Dolls is written by Roger Ebert.
Oh.
And that was like his great big failure before he just became a film critic. That one's kind of raunchy. It's like has people like filleting guns and shit like that. And...
No, because I saw it when I was looking at Criterion Collection movies, and I was like, oh, I thought that was like a porno, and then I didn't really think anything else about it. So sorry, continue.
Oh no, that's fine. We watched Joe versus the Volcano, a 1990 film starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and this was I hadn't watched this in a long time, and I watched it Friday, and like the first part of the movie, it's like, wow, this is kind of like Brazil in a way.
Yeah.
It's so unusual. And he works at a factory, and what do they know? What was like the inventor of the anal probe, or
yeah, something like that, or they perfected. It's some medical company. They make petroleum jelly and anal probes.
Yeah,
that's their big products.
I knew it was a medical company. I don't remember the anal probe part.
Oh yeah, it's like it has a big sign of how many anal probes they've sold.
And the symbol of the company is like a bolt of lightning, but a really just a weird looking, lightning symbol.
Yeah.
Which comes back in the movie a lot.
Yeah.
But this was kind of an interesting movie. I didn't realize this was released by Amblin. I was watching the credits and I was like, oh, I didn't know this was.
Yeah, Yeah, Steven Spielberg was like an executive producer or something.
Yeah. Kind of weird. And the guy who directed it, I looked him up. He was mainly a playwright before
Yeah,
this.
he's a famous playwright.
Yeah.
And then like this ruined his career, and he just went back to playwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you know that movie Doubt?
Yeah.
He wrote that.
I fucking hated that movie. The ending of that movie was fucking stupid as shit.
Yeah, but it's like
No, I think
it's like a well-received movie that's very dramatic.
No, I didn't say like the acting was bad or the story was necessarily bad. The ending just ruined it for me, though.
Yeah, I know. Emery's was I have doubt.
And then it just ends. I'm like, really? Like,
But you imagine like that movie, and that guy made Joe versus the Volcano.
wow, that's a totally different fucking spectrum.
Well, kind of.
Well,
Yeah, I don't
to
know.
To me, it is straight seriousness or wacky, fucking like comedy, dark comedy. I don't know what you'd call it at that time. Because dark comedy didn't really exist yet, but it's not definitely not.
No, I mean it's been around, but yeah.
No dark comedy was around though.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been. It's just called British.
Well, I was just, sorry, I guess what I meant to say was I didn't know dark comedy was referred to as dark comedy at that time.
Oh, I don't know, like when that term started getting thrown around, but.
This guy's name's John Patrick Shanley, was the director, writer of this. And
Sounds like a good old Irish boy.
oh yeah, I guess that would be a pretty Irish name. Yeah, it's good. It's interesting. I like how this movie seemed to make fun of a lot of '80s movies, because they had the downtrodden working guy who would just, he's a chronic, he's a hypochondriac. Yeah, something's always wrong, and then he finally goes to a doctor that makes up something for him.
You have a brain cloud.
It was the guy from. I always think of that guy from. He's from
Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, it's like he sounds like a doctor.
We all have a brain cloud.
Yeah.
There's a lot of foreshadowing too in the movie, because like in that scene, there's a duck on his wall. So I think it's supposed to clue you into that he's a quack.
Right. And then they, but it's weird though, because the doctor, because he talks about this brain cloud and it's going to kill him, and then he says it's all psychosomatic, and it's like, well, wait, that means it's not real. Like, okay, yeah, he just threw that in there. And then, because supposedly Joe was the character was a fireman before he got his job at this company, and that's like kind of an interesting subtext to the character.
Yeah, it's basically he had so much PTSD that he was making himself ill because he was thinking he was ill from all the trauma he had endured while being a fireman.
Yeah,
and that's how he ended up getting this job, because like it didn't involve any danger or anything like that.
And then so then he quits his job, tells his boss, which was funny because it was who played his boss? I have the thing right in front of me, but yeah, he quits his job, and then Lloyd Bridges shows up. I always think of him from. I just all the actors I saw in this movie, it's like, how many of these people do I think of as something else?
Terry Dede.
Yeah, she plays 3 characters in this.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which I'd seen this movie a bunch when I was a kid, but I guess I never realized that she played 3 different characters.
Well, she had a dark wig on as the secretary, I think, as I remember.
Yeah, her hair is always different. And she looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks like way younger and also sickly, but everyone looks sickly that works at that job. That's kind of the point of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, you're talking about. Oh yeah, and also Lloyd Bridges, he uses his brain, because he figures out all this shit about Joe so he can convince him to jump into a volcano, and he uses his bravery when he like went into a building 3 times to pull everybody out of the building. And he's like, "Hey, anybody would go back in there twice, but not a 3rd time."
Yeah, this movie's like a comedy. Like it just plays like a comedy initially, but then there's always this subtext to it that I think's great, and just the strange way people act.
Yeah.
Like when Joe meets what's this, Angelica, the second character played by Meg Ryan. She acts like this kind of weird, I don't know, valley person. Like
Yeah, but it's weird because
it's insecure and strange all at once.
plus her accent seems like she seems like an Australian actress who's trying to do a bad Valley Girl accent.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I don't think I've seen Meg Ryan do a lot of accents or off-kilter voices than normal, so maybe that's just not her strong suit, apparently.
Well, no, I just think the character was weird. I think it was exactly as presented. It's just like you're supposed to be this.
It's not like she did bad. It's just the character's
Yeah.
weird.
You're just kind of this weird, drugged out, too self-confident, but not about the right things. Like
She wants to be an artist, but she doesn't want to like
understand art.
And she can't escape like the confines of her father. Like it's like all her art is put up in her father's restaurants. Like,
Yeah.
she's not gonna refuse to take her father's money and try to live as an artist on her own. Like she's not gonna learn anything. She's just gonna take the money all the time.
I like it when she's looking at the crab in the restaurant. She's like, they're like monsters, but they're good monsters, and she starts beating it with a hammer. It's like that's just really. Everyone in this movie seems like emotionally disconnected. Because even remember when he goes to his apartment, it's this weird like Brazil style half an apartment.
Yeah.
Because they divided
that weird lightning symbol like cracked into the wall.
Yeah, and the fireplace that's like half bricked up between him and the next apartment, and the guy's Mr. what's it, Grainamore or whatever they say. Yeah, he makes this proposal and he basically tells him, yeah, you're gonna throw yourself in a volcano at the end. It's to help me do all this stuff, and he's like, okay, like no, oh, this is the time I have left, or it's just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like people just seem emotionally vacant in this movie, which is probably for a reason, but
yeah,
it is funny to watch the actor because this is still young Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
and like action figure Tom Hanks almost, but and an early was his movie Lost, or what was the movie where he was Castaway, yeah, when they're floating in on the expensive luggage after the ship gets caught in a storm. It's like, yeah, it's foreshadowing because he goes crazy because he doesn't drink any of the water.
Yeah, he saves it for Meg Ryan.
Yeah, he saves it for Meg Ryan. And the lightning bolt that hits the boat is the same shape as the lightning bolt all throughout the movie.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's like within 2 frames, but it's there.
Well, there's like multiple ways you can see it, or it's either some weird lightning bolt, or it's like a lava trail or something like that. Because if you look at the symbol for the company, it's a triangle, so it's like a mountain, and then that bolt coming down is like the lava coming out of the mountain.
Oh, okay.
But I saw the pathway when they walk into work is also the same thing, same bolt symbol. There's the daisy that like gets stepped on, and he like as he quits, he like pulls it up and like kind of tries to save the daisy.
Yeah, that walk into work and those gates. By the way, that was filmed where I work. Same thing.
Feel the soul crushing.
Yes, it's playing "Sold My Soul to the Company Store."
Wasn't it funny how like that was portrayed like this giant factory that all these people went and worked in? That was portrayed as soul crushing, and now they've practically closed all those places, and now everyone's committing suicide with heroin. It's like they just can't win. People would kill to be in that place now. It doesn't exist anymore.
Well, I mean, the heroin overdose is their volcano,
Yeah, that's sacrificing themselves to the heroin gods.
Yeah.
But this is one of those movies with, I like I said, this so much of Brazil, and I didn't remember it from but the last time I saw it was a long time ago. So
I remember I liked this movie when I was a kid, and I think I liked it more because people said it was stupid.
yeah,
And like I can see how you can think it's a stupid movie, but like now, seeing it now, because I haven't seen it in a long time, it's like this movie's fucking great.
yeah, subtext and
Yeah.
those are good.
Because how badly did it bomb back when it came out? 'Cause
Oh,
I
it
know-
ruined this guy's career.
Well, I know it ruined the guy's career, but I didn't know if it was because they
Well-
blamed him for it more, or if they just thought everybody was bad.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of the weird thing. Is like there's a lot of successes and failures because it's like this is the first pairing of Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
And then
Yeah.
every movie after that, people were like, "We want to."
Yeah.
So so obviously something good came out of this.
It's just
movie.
like it's just like and like this guy he went back to playwriting for like 10 years. I think
thought-
I don't know. I'm
I
not sure.
thought Terry Gilliam was involved in this movie as well.
No, it just looks like a Terry Gilliam
okay.
movie. No,
Yeah,
but-
it has a very Python type vibe almost.
but because he wrote and directed Sean Patrick Flannery. Is that his name?
What's his name? John Patrick Shanley.
Oh, John Pat. So what did I fucking say?
Some
Sean
Flannery.
Patrick Flannery.
Flannery, yeah.
Who the fuck is that? It's probably some character.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the guy? Who's the guy in the Boondock Saint movies?
Norman Reedus and
The other guy, Patrick something, isn't it?
Maybe.
let's use this data system we have.
So I want to know if like that's where I'm confusing this because Sean Patrick Flannery is a character or something. And what's his actual name? What's the director's name?
I'm off the page right now. Hold on. John Patrick Flannery is the other guy.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe, Sean Patrick Flannery, Norman Reedus, and Billy Connolly.
Okay.
And where is it? Come on. John Patrick Shanley is the
John
director.
Patrick Shanley. Okay.
So yeah, they all kind of sound the same.
Yeah.
It's all from the same ethnic pool. Of
But
young-
yeah, you have to go through
Flannery,
his
John
like,
Pat-
what's that?
No, I was just trying to rhyme them together
Oh.
in the same sentence. Sorry.
Yeah, like go through his IMDb and see like kind of like how like the years between films and stuff like that, or if he wrote other movies.
Oh, he wrote. Let's see. He wrote. What did he do? He wrote a screenplay for Alive in 1993.
Okay.
He wrote the screenplay for Congo.
Okay.
Okay.
He wrote the screenplay for Live from Baghdad,
Okay.
and then he directed again in 2008.
Okay. Yeah. So that pretty much just it kind of ruined his directing career, but he still had a pretty vibrant
Yeah.
writing career.
All the lava
Oh.
scenes in Congo make more sense. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I've never seen
Well, he was
Live.
writer on Congo. He didn't direct.
Well, I'm just saying screenplay, so I mean he's the one that, like, oh,
Yeah.
Then the apes jump.
Because they don't understand it.
Bad gorillas hurt you. That was a great movie. No, it wasn't. But yeah, this movie was. Yeah, it parallels so much. So much of this that's seems Terry Gilliam and very Brazil. But I don't know if that really has to do with the directing style or just the story and how, because the people seem to act and react in strange ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
There's a weird logic to the world of Joe versus the volcano.
Yeah. But I think that, especially the opening sequences, it looks very much like Brazil. Like it's just
Yeah.
like the color scheme and all that stuff. And then like, around the time like he, goes to LA, that's like there's almost like a color change where it's like, okay, this looks more like real life now.
Yeah.
And then you get to the model of the volcano at the end, and then it's back to the weird side.
I like it that Abe Vigoda was the tribal chief.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that until I saw it. I was like, oh, yeah. And then a young Nathan Lane
Yeah.
was in this.
And unrecognizable because he's in a bunch of makeup and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I knew who he was. but it took me a little bit. It's like, wait a minute, that's
Well, I didn't realize. I was just like, I moved the cursor because I was watching on Amazon. It showed who was in the scene. I was like, that's Nathan Lane.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, all right.
That actually makes sense because Nathan Lane was more of a. Oh, he was from
Theater. He came out
theater.
of theater. So.
Yeah, so they probably knew
Yeah, they
each
probably
other.
worked together or something.
Yeah, because Nathan Lane's. I mean, I know he keeps popping up in movies occasionally because he's usually a really good actor in most things he is in. But I know he's still involved in theater pretty heavily, more than movies anyway.
Yeah, well, he did that run of the producers for like 10 years. Him and
Matthew Broderick.
yeah.
Yeah. Still think Nathan Lane's biggest movie as an actor was probably The Birdcage, wasn't it?
Maybe.
And then The Lion King, I think, was his biggest like voice movie.
Yeah, that was probably his biggest thing that people know
Yeah.
him for.
I thought you were gonna say it was that movie where he's trying to get that mouse to sign over the house to him, and him and his brother in the yarn factory. Yeah,
Is that Mouse Hunt?
yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
That's a Gore. That's a Gore Verbinski flick. Next movie he did
yeah?
was The Ring.
That's an interesting arc.
And then he did the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
And then he never had to work again.
But also, didn't he do the? Oh fuck! What movie was it with? What's his name? He was in Eastern Promises, and he was like one of the first. He's also in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that.
Oh, Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, what was that one where he was like a small town guy that like was or
Oh, History of Violence.
yeah, History of Violence. Wasn't that a Gore Verbinski film?
No, that was David Cronenberg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think what is it? Did he do that? A Cure for Wellness? Was that the latest Gore Verbinski
Yeah.
movie? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
I still haven't tracked that down because I kind of wanted to see it, but
I've never watched it.
Me neither.
I'm going to see Darkest Hour tomorrow with Grayson.
You're not
Oh,
gonna,
okay.
You're not gonna go see The Commuter or whatever the Liam Neeson trade movie is.
No,
It's like it's January. We need a Liam Neeson action movie.
I need someone to stand there and look grim. Paul. It's a legendarily cute
Pretty
cock.
soon his line isn't gonna be, "What if you know with my wife and children? What if you know with my daughter and my granddaughter?" Like, no, not believable.
Where's my grandchildren?
Where's my dog? Seriously, I don't know.
Oh, there they are. 30-second movie.
Have you seen my scrambled eggs?
I have a particular set of skills.
I take my fiber pills on time. I'm breaking.
But yeah, they explain why there's all these white people on the island, because there's like some Roman got lost in the middle of the sea and there's a storm and they wound up on this island, so it's like a combination of the Polynesian
Oh yeah, it's like based on like part Polynesian, part Viking, part Roman, part they
part
just
Hebrew.
it's everything.
It's the island all the white people wash up on when they travel. Apparently.
So yeah, and Joe and what's her name? What's her character at the end? Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say Delilah.
Patricia.
Patricia, there you
Yeah.
go. They all get gussied up, and they're about to jump into the volcano, and she decides that she's in love with Joe. And then they jump into the volcano together, and then the volcano blows them out, and then they survive, but everybody on the island supposedly dies.
Yeah, it's weird because they what was it? It was they go to jump in and then the volcano explodes and throws them clear, but then the island sinks. And they're on their luggage again. Or were they on their luggage?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
luggage. Yeah, the luggage always pops up, and then like he makes the comment that's like, oh, we're all fucked again because we're like in the middle of nowhere. It's like, how's it gonna work out? And then she kind of just makes this like, it'll all work out.
Be fine.
And then it literally just says they lived happily ever after, and it says the end.
Yep. It just kind of had, it was the Hollywood ending.
Yeah.
And a movie that made mockery of Hollywood the whole way.
Yeah. I think it was kind of deserved. This guy's like, destined to just kill himself for no really good reason other than like, I get superconductors and I get to be a hero, and then he finds love at the end when he realizes he never really lived any kind of life whatsoever, and like the first time he does, he's about to die. It's like, he also that's where he finds out that the doctor lied about his brain cloud.
Yeah, he's not really gonna die, by the way. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but yeah, not really gonna die. Yeah, this was an interesting. This movie had a lot of interesting acting and characters in it. A very autistic Tom Hanks, almost, or just kind of an unaware Tom Hanks.
This time it always seems like big in a way, especially when he gets the money. He just spends money on shit.
Yeah,
and he's like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He needs to ask, just ask people around. Say, oh, what would you do?
Yeah, that is kind of, and the one guy, I know some people have done some real deep dives on this. It's like this is a retelling of Joseph Campbell's narrative. Is it? Okay, explain that, and they do, and it sort of makes sense. But
well, there's some like Greek mythology in here too, or something. Because there's something with Meg Ryan's characters. Like there's some story about like the goddess and the three sisters or whatever, where it's like a god and she takes these three different forms of like the maid, the something, and the something or whatever. And it's like it's also like follows that storyline in a way.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I didn't know exactly what to make of all that.
And like I said, there's a lot of, if you look for it, there's a lot of foreshadowing and interesting things like that in this movie. And what would essentially be just a really stupid movie and wouldn't deserve any of that, like it's there if you look for it, like, which I really like, which I guess I appreciate more now, and I didn't even notice when I was a kid.
Yeah, it kind of means more now. It makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just kind of a mildly amusing movie that really didn't seem to have a place. Almost has more of a place now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Joe versus the volcano. Great movie. Watch it. Especially the first. The first part of it I consider to be its strongest point.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it kind of becomes more of a romantic comedy all the way through, but with very unconventional romantic characters.
And with a weirdly dire and dark circumstances.
Yeah, because at the end of the movie, he's supposed to throw himself into a volcano and die.
And then they both decide, I guess we're going to die together.
Yeah. Kind of a rash decision, but there it was. Wow.
Well, they're tied together, right? So it's not like one of them can decide to jump, the other one can.
No, they hold hands.
Oh.
No, they hold hands.
Yeah, there's actually like a weird point where, so there's a point where he goes on a date with Dee Dee, and there's a point where like he holds out her hand, and like she doesn't like grab his hand, she just kind of puts her fist in his hand. And then at the end, he goes to take her hand, and her hand's in a fist, and then like it undoes, and then she grabs his hand. And I didn't know if that was a thing that they were intentionally doing, or
They were
what.
just playing a long marathon game of rock paper.
Yeah,
scissors.
yeah.
She got used to like the whole. Oh, damn. Okay, sorry, not rock.
Oh yeah, paper and paper.
I prefer rock paper gun, but I mean,
Rock, gun, axe.
or anthrax gun rock. like,
Rock, VX nuclear weapon. Speaking of nuclear weapons, I'll change topic here real quick. Did everyone hear about the Hawaii ballistic missile threat inbound.
Yeah.
Went out on everyone's phone and all over the place, and then took 40 minutes to rescind.
I didn't hear about that, but
Yeah.
Oh yeah, today well, as of the recording of the show today, Hawaii, your phones have those alert things on them that you can't turn off.
yeah.
Emergency alert sent to everyone in Hawaii. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. And so everyone thought a missile was coming to hit us, presumably with a nuclear warhead, hit Hawaii. And yeah, people were like flooding into shelters and abandoning their cars on roads, and it led to a lot of confusion. And I guess it said someone hit the wrong button on a computer.
They meant to hit Happy Holiday.
Yeah.
Instead, they hit Take Shelter, ballistic missile inbound.
They hit the oh shit button right before they went to a shift change.
Well, this is really bad in Hawaii because they've been having air raid drills for the first time since the Second World War. Where they start doing that, November, December, but they've been like conducting and passing out pamphlets like what happens if a nuclear weapon hits Hawaii, and so people have been that's why they're testing the system, I guess, because they've been gearing up. So everyone was kind of on pins and needles anyway, and then this happens and just like, oh fuck. Because they pretty much told them in the pamphlets, by the time we alert you, you'll have about 10 minutes to find a shelter. So.
Well, my question is, what would the nuclear bomb do to all the active volcanoes in the area and stuff like that? Because doesn't that usually set off like reactions of like earthquakes and weather events and stuff like that usually?
I don't know. I mean, I guess if you hit directly on top of it, weather events would be like the dust and stuff. Later it would get very cold. But that's like global. I don't know what it would do to Hawaii. I don't know what the yield and throw weight of presumably a Korean missile would be. But yeah, that was pretty, I guess a lot of people in Hawaii are really mad. But that would scare the shit out of you if you got that message and then for like almost 40 minutes you didn't hear anything else. But I guess if you went to the news like on your phone, I don't know what the internet service is like on Hawaii, but I guess if you went to your phone and looked at the news and like, well, CNN's not talking about it, and so I don't know. But Hawaiian emergency management systems, I think they have the most comprehensive contingency plans because they have everything to deal with there. Tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes, now nuclear weapons. So it's, yeah. I don't know why anyone would live there. It's too expensive. Too much money. But anyway, on that note, I think I'm done. You guys done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew?
Goodbye, America.